This is Accelerated Racing Solutions, my office. It's where you call in, you talk to me, we talk about your builds. You can see out into the shop and spy a little bit. I'm gonna help you build your car, tell you how much it's gonna be, what are your goals, what are your plans, and I'm gonna set you up with what you wanna build. And then here we have the shop. I'll let Brandon talk about his place.
Air conditioned, biggest thing that we like about this shop. So we have crazy hot summers here, so it's super nice. All the cars here, we keep them inside. I don't put anything outside. I don't take in any cars. We don't take in any cars if we're really not ready to start getting it in the queue to get worked on. So all these cars in here are waiting on, either parts or builds or in the process of getting built. We got a bunch of motors out, motors coming in, so on and so forth with that stuff. We have no employees here. It's something that kind of sets us apart from everybody else. It's just us two. So in the event something were to happen, I'm gonna know every nut and bolt that was touched on that car. So it doesn't happen often, but if there's something, I know the cars very intimately. I build them, I tune them, everything in between. So that's a little different for us compared to other people.
GM LT.
Yeah, we do late model GM. LT is kind of where our niche is. We do LS stuff. We still get some LS stuff in here. Every once in a while we get in a Scat Pack or Hellcat build. But the primary bread and butter for us is the Camaro platform. LT Camaro platform is what we do the most of. In-house tuning, all done here in our dyno room over here. Sound insulated room, DynoCom, dyno, exhaust extraction system, all that. So this is where we'll be getting the car dynoed in.
Let me show you the fan, it's kind of cool.
Yeah, and then it's got a big old turbo fan that'll suck out all the exhaust out of here. Take a second, but so I don't die in here.
Damn.
When you're dynoing something in here, like 1,000 horsepower moves a lot of air, so it'll pull everything out of here.
When they're building dyno rooms, they're over $170,000. So we had to think of how we can do it where we're not spending $170,000.
It's just movie room insulation and it's sealed up with spray foam on top and everything, but pretty simple setup in here. Hub dyno, so we don't have to worry about bald tires, any of that stuff. We could simulate load on the street with the eddy currents in the dynos. Dyno's rated at like 3,500 horsepower. I'm not gonna put 3,500 horsepower in this room. 1,000 horsepower Camaro Corvette I'm okay with. But it does the job really well for what we tune. And then out here, this building is a hangar, so the door on the backside is a 50-foot long door that opens up to a beautiful tree line. There's an airstrip behind here, so people are landing their planes all day. So our cars are quiet compared to these little planes firing up.
Are you ready? Let's get it.
Yeah.
Welcome back to Go Hard Podcast. I'm your host, Noel.
Jay White.
We got JustinWhiteTuned as my co-host. Guys, we're back in Dallas again. We just had another podcast with Matt before. Just want to say thank you guys for your hospitality. They catered food, and it was awesome.
It was great.
It was great, right?
And tequila.
too.
And tequila, yeah. Casa Azul.
Huh?
Casa Azul. Yeah.
Say it.
Tequila, you take your...
Casa Azul.
Was that House Blue?
Yeah.
Blue House. Look, see, I'm learning. I'm getting there.
I was like, what?
I'll be speaking Spanish in the next 3 years.
Right.
My kids are gonna learn first.
Guys, this episode's gonna be awesome. We got OGs in the house. Originally from Cali, they came to Texas and been Grudge Racing for more than 10, 15 years. Justin, is that right?
Longer.
20.
Yeah.
20 plus?
Yeah.
Oh, damn, sorry. But
Not
yeah.
reveal their age, Jesus.
Guys, today we're gonna get into how they started, what's to come for them, the future. Also, we're gonna talk about obviously racing, the builds, the Blue Mustang that they're known for, the TV show Netflix, and yeah, let's get into it. Let's introduce Accelerated. Guys, introduce yourselves and then tell us a little bit about your background.
I'm Brandon.
I'm Tiana.
Man, I don't even know where to start. I think we both have grown up in car stuff, like her a little more than me, but we've always been around cars. We met in high school in like the year 2000. So I don't date myself too much, but we met in 2000. We started dating like in 2004. That was a little bit right after getting our driver's licenses, senior year of high school. I had a 94 Mustang back then, and she had a 69 Camaro. And vividly to this day, I can remember like her dad dropping her off to school in a 69 Camaro. And I'm like, I'm going to marry that chick. Like, it just was like the coolest car ever. It was like a dream car of mine back then. And
you still have that picture on Instagram too.
Probably.
Yeah.
That's
do.
right. I look like I'm 150 pounds, but yeah.
You were 150
Yeah. So back then, I don't know if I was in yearbook or wherever the hell I was, but I did a car show. Basically, I talked the school into letting me do a car show and put all our cars up on the stage and lined everything up. And I'd reach out to her to let her be in the car show. And her dad's over there undoing the headers, taking the little things off to make it open header and come driving in. So we kind of hit it off at the car show. And just funny, stupid story is my mom went to her mom and was like, yeah, my son likes your daughter. Like, you know, it kind of like started off. We kind of like we were friends at the time. And that's like when we really started dating. Back then, like, she always had the faster car. Like, my car was like, we were going like 15s back then. That was like fast.
With underglows.
With underglows.
Sorry.
Like, you know, cherry bombs were a thing back then. Flowmaster 40 series was like glass packs. That was like the hot shit to have.
Some ricer activities.
Yeah,
It was.
we're borderline. But at least had the V8.
What city was this?
Ranch Cucamonga. Friday.
Like Fontana, Ontario area.
Yeah.
Cucamonga
Ontario
Cracker
street
Killers.
races.
Yeah. So
That's the thing, right?
What is it?
Cucamonga Cracker Killers.
I don't
I
even
don't
know.
know.
No, I
And you
lived
obviously didn't watch Friday.
I watched
Oh,
Friday,
yes,
but I
yes,
didn't.
yes, yes,
Okay.
yes. Okay, yes.
So I know. We back then, like, she grew up in the garage, like with her dad tinker on shit. My parents hated cars. Like, I used to have to like quiet my exhaust as I was pulling in the house, and you know, we'd go to the track on the weekend, and the neighbor next to me would actually like sign as he was my dad to let me go race, like, because you had to be
Underage waiver.
I think you had to have like an whatever it was to go race a quarter-mile strip that we had. So he would like go sign it and let me go race because my parents wanted nothing to do with it at all. And we raced each other, you know, since then, you know, until now that we have a shop.
She would gap you?
Oh, she did a lot. Yeah, like back then we started with like a 327 in a Camaro, and then we put a 350, and then like the 383
I got
was like.
beat by a Saturn red line.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? We need to put something else in this.
So we were
At least the
That's how
Ion, right?
fast we
whatever
are.
the supercharged
Yeah,
one
yeah,
was.
yeah, yeah.
Well, they had the little car and the SUV.
It
no,
wasn't an
the
SUV.
little piece of shit.
Yeah.
That and then what the SCR Nissans was things back then.
yeah.
And the Hondas were a thing. Like that's what we're in that scene that year. The Hondas were going on. We raced that for a while. Somewhere like 05, 07. I had a pretty bad motorcycle wreck where like damn near died. Woke up in the ICU in the middle of LA, like LAUSC, like there was dudes handcuffed in beds next to me, like just probably the scariest place to be. And that's when we went and bought our first like race car to build. A little bit after that, I was like, man, I was young and stupid and just jumped on a street bike. Thought, you know, that was going to be something to do. Crashed it, landed in the ICU, got out, was fine, learned how to walk again, all that stuff. Started building this Fox body. From then, my parents kind of jumped on they were okay with it then. Like, all right, we're okay with that. That car back in like 2007 went like 540s, you know, so this is back in 2007.
That's
but yeah,
fast.
like
We were
100
nitrous fans then.
Nitrous.
That's all we did was nitrous.
Yeah, and they like a 525 kit or something I had on there. It was 275s, whatever I had on it. Went like 540 at 125. And then her Camaro, big block Camaro, well, it was a different car though.
It was a different car. I built it with my dad in 8th grade.
so she had a 69 Camaro, and then her dad had one that they had built together. That one we sprayed the shit out of, go 6.0. I don't give a shit what you did, how much nitrous she put in that thing. 6.0, 6.0, 6.0. So
that's kind of where we started getting into, drag racing and being competitive with the local people on Thursday at Irwindale drag strip.
I mean, 540s back then, there couldn't have been too many
No, and
No.
that's
people around that. I mean, that's fast for today.
There was 2 other Fox bodies. Izzy built, so he's still racing in SoCal. He does a lot of street stuff.
Yeah, he does.
That's Izzy's performance with the trucks.
Yep.
yeah.
So before he had the shop, he would build cars, and I told him one day, I'm going to build something faster than you. And I ended up racing him we had an LS1 swap 240. I ended up beating him. I'm like, I told you I beat you.
even that car, like 09 570, like, Power Glide, LS7 swap 240, little ricer pipe coming off the side. Like,
I made it look like very ricery.
yeah, cool as hell.
He still races, Grudge Racing.
Yeah, he's
Izzy.
still doing his
I
guys.
seen a video like 2 weeks
little white
ago.
truck he has now,
Yeah.
and he's done some pretty gnarly Fox body things. Like,
Well, he comes out here, too, to race now. So we see him at Jake's race, all the prep races.
Yeah, XRP.
Yeah, so back there, like, we're racing Irwindale, right? Like, you really weren't racing side by side. Like, that track wasn't safe for 2 people to go down the track. So our whole previous experience with racing at a track, you never learned how to stage, you never learned staging games, you never learned how to mess with the guy next to you and vice versa. So the racetrack there was like, you could have 2 people on the starting line. Like, it was super like policed. It hasn't even changed till today. So that, like, every Thursday night, I was working a like corporate job deal at the time, and Thursdays, man, I had to make it to that track every Thursday because that was life for us. So we spent a lot of time racing there and meeting people, working on our own cars out of the garage. And a shop really wasn't even in the works. Like, we didn't even think about it. It wasn't even an idea.
We were just building cars. That's what we enjoyed doing together.
Your passion.
Competing. I'd always tell him I'm faster, and we've been doing that since high school.
Break it on a Thursday, go all weekend to fix it. I'm talking eat top ramen all week to order whatever you needed to fix it and go do it over and over and over and over again.
That's awesome.
And fast forward a little bit to like 2014, I had was trying to sell my house in Rancho Cucamonga to, or we were trying to sell it. I had visited Dallas on a trip with BMW because that's where I was working at the time. And I swear I hit it, and I called her from like a barbecue spot or something. I was like, we're moving to Dallas, like, sell the house today. And this is in 2014. So we tried to sell the house. 2014 did not sell. And it, that's actually what kind of pushed us to start opening the shop, is we couldn't leave Cali, and I was killing myself to death working so many hours with BMW at the time. And that was kind of the deciding factor to open the shop in California where we started.
Before we get all that, 'cause you jumped half the story.
Yeah.
A lot of the trophies you had there was a race that y'all constantly did. I forget what.
Red List.
The Red List. You tell me about that. What?
Yeah, so there was a race. So there's not very many races in Southern California, right? There's not much competition. It's just test and tune. So Red List was started by Jesse, and it was based on street cars. So newer late model vehicles and just quarter mile. And they would, give cash and trophies for the fastest car, fastest Ford, fastest Chevy, fastest female, just to get newer racers out there, right? Like, you're trying to learn things. You could be competitive. It wasn't any pressure to, sign up for a class or anything. It's just race and do what you do. And so we would sponsor that series. And, we succeeded in a lot. I mean, he was the fastest for 7 years?
Yeah, I think all the way until like this year, like that GTR finally got me, was like this year he'd got me. Whatever, one of the cars went 720. I think I held it at 730 or 740. And that was set like in 2016.
And that was with
the Hater Maker. So that was the twin turbo teal Blue Mustang 427 twin turbo deal. That guy, like, that's what kept our street car, or even our racing alive in California. Like, it was a dying breed almost. Like, there wasn't a lot of stuff to do, and the tracks were closing down, and like that was something to look forward to. Where here, I I could pick 4 different tracks to go to tonight, probably. California, that's all there was. It was 2 times a year. You would have Irwindale every Thursday or Red List when it came around in the
So
prep.
what was cool about Red List also is, we had a lot of the small tire cars. We brought a lot of small tire from Irwindale. So then we would set up, like with the AV boys, we'd bring up like a small tire shootout.
Nice.
So we had a car specific for small tire shootout. It'd be like a street car, small tire, all steel, all glass type deal. And so that's what we kind of introduced a little bit of small tire racing to Southern California. It wasn't big at all.
Yeah, and that's like, we watched them, like, growing up, I guess. AV Boys are probably one of the first people we watched doing, I mean, they had all the street stuff, but like, we used to post time slips in California, right? Like, you would light the boards, and that was like a concept that didn't even come till recent years where they stopped doing that. And I heard Tony always looking at me, you keep lighting them boards, I'm gonna know exactly what I need to get you, So that was like, no time racing was not even a thing back there. Yeah. You lit the boards, everybody knew how fast you were. I don't even think there was really a grudge scene,
There wasn't.
That came into the after hours stuff where it's like, if you had a problem with somebody, you went and raced them. Like the track that Irwindale, like the 2 lanes, the 1 lane went into the next lane. Like, you'd be going in the right lane and it would merge over, not into the lane, but you would go from a full size track to right next to the guy. So imagine going 130 and there was a circle track at the time right there, and you had to merge over to get to it. So yeah.
And what year was this?
We raced there. I mean,
2004 to 2019 every Thursday.
Damn.
Yeah, so it's still open today. It's 3 people on the starting line max. Just super.
The street scene though. So we made a trip out to California with Wendy's CTSV, and as far as a lot of the different places that we went, because we hit a lot of cities on the way, California is one of the only ones, the street runners. I don't know if you're familiar with them.
Yeah, I remember
They
that.
put together 2 nights for us, and then that was in LA, and then we went down to San Diego, and they put together another night for us there. And so the street scene.
That was all roll racing though at that point.
Yeah.
That's
So
right,
714
They
racing.
offered dig racing,
Yeah.
but we weren't. We were set up for
714
roll.
Racing was doing a lot of that stuff around that time too when they were out. So they were setting up the roll racing stuff. Like I had, like, when I knew of that roll race scene is like when the Hellcat first came out. Like, we had a Hellcat, whatever year, 14, right around there. We had bought a Hellcat, like, brand new off the showroom floor, and like, that car was worthless on the tire it came with back then. So like, yeah, naturally roll racing came in. And
But there was a lot of street grudge racing out there, wasn't there?
yeah, so there was Compton, is where most of the real stuff was at. You raced into an intersection. Someone had to go push the stoplight, to make sure nothing.
Tell the pizza boy to go home.
Yeah, so I mean, to go back to like the Ontario street racing days, man, that was that vibe. Like, it was from spot to spot to spot till it got broken up, and it was, if you could copy paste something out of Fast and the Furious, it was like when the Hondas were real big and all that, people just lining up back to back. That's like the genre that I first was introduced to, but it was all Hondas back then. Like the V8 wasn't even something that was doing that until we switched crowds, I guess, and then learned about all the other stuff that was going on. And we grew up watching, Cripple Kevin was somebody real big that was into the street racing back then. Alfredo,
One Arm Dave.
he was a big one out there. And then, like JJ, I think, and AV Boys were big back then. But that was like the grudge scene back then, middle of Compton.
So y'all started V8s.
Yeah, so
You never had a Honda beginning? Or?
We tried to go buy SRT4s together. We went to the dealer. We
believe you
both
said that.
wanted to buy SRT4s. We wanted to, though.
We did.
Back before, like, that was a cool car back then. It made a bunch of
was.
power.
It
It was
was.
front-wheel drive, had a blow-off valve. And I think that they, like, treated me like shit.
Yeah.
Like, we don't want to, like, I couldn't afford to buy it at whatever it was. And we're like, all right, no. And then we ended up buying something else, But that's where, I guess that would have been...
That would have been your Honda days?
That would have been what
Yeah,
would have.
essentially.
I may have steered into that back then, and then
We got into BMWs.
BMWs I was driving for so long because they were almost free to drive when I worked with them. But the Mustang, I got in high school was the first like V8.
No,
that
we
got
had
me.
the first like 135 BMW when they came out,
Yeah.
and we would go to the street races and we would tell people that it was just a Kia with a BMW badge. Like, don't worry
we
about
stripped the bed. No one knew what it was
it's
back
just
then. It was
it's just a
little
Kia.
two-door,
and they believed us.
I ran into one of the Texas 2Ks. They had a 135 with a turbo LS motor in it.
yeah.
That's it.
And I was like, what is that, like a pregnant roller skate or something? And he hit it, and I'm like, oh, what the hell was that?
Yeah.
It was fast.
Well, it's little, it's tiny.
It was
But
tiny.
with that back then, like if you had like a 14-second car, you know, early on when I first started like driving, really is when I started racing. As soon as we had a car, like you went 14s, like that was quick back then. 14s, like 13s. I think the SRT4 went 13s when it came out from the showroom, and like that's faster than our V8s. Like what the heck?
Yeah.
It was just funny because most shops that are into this, they all started from a Honda base. If you haven't noticed that by now.
None of us want to admit, like when Fast and the Furious came out, like that was
I had an Integra.
2001,
I was
right?
in.
Like
I
we're
had a
barely
Prelude.
getting
I
our
still
driver.
would want to Integra
That was
Prelude.
barely getting our driver's licenses. Like that, I remember going to the theater that night and what the parking lot was like afterwards. Like that really did set off that scene. You watch it today and it's a little different, but it just that back then that was like cutting edge car stuff back then.
Grudge Racing now in Cali, is it different than it was back then?
I think it's changed a shit ton, and this isn't. I've watched it change because all the guys came from Cali to here when they saw what the grudge scene is here, and they're bringing a lot of that stuff back there. Irwindale, no time was never even a thing, right? And then the
We
street
went
racing.
to Bodie's.
Oh yeah, Bodie's.
So
Bodie's
Bodie's was
had
the
it, yeah.
first event that we went to, and we saw No Time.
Yeah.
That was the first time. And we brought it back to Irwindale, and we said, hey, we're going to be doing this No Time stuff. Can you turn off our clocks? You know, and they kind of put up a little fit at first.
Yeah, they
but
wouldn't do it.
They wouldn't do it. And I'm like, please, like, we're trying to race. If we show our times on the board, we're not going to be able to enter in any of these No Time events. And then they started doing No Time.
Bodie, I think, to answer that question a little better, I think Bodie did probably the biggest thing for grudge racing in California
On the West
for
Coast.
No Time West Coast. Like, I think that's where I got turned on to like radial racing and No Time, because the scene of it was just like, I didn't know what that guy ran next to me. I didn't know how much I needed. And Bodie actually, I think, did a huge contribution to that world in that grudge scene.
We started racing for time slips, right? We're just trying to
Yeah.
go as fast as we can. We didn't think about, you know, who was next to us, because we didn't really race anybody next to us because of the track we had. So you're just racing yourself, you
Right.
know, and honestly, that's boring. That's
And we
boring
never
to
learned
us.
how to compete. Like
Yeah.
in California, I'd say like that last year we left, which is 2019, is finally when it started to like, you're actually able to race next to people, and like that grudge scene became a little better. But I mean, fast forward to today, like Match Race Madness does a big grudge race event, but even a lot of the theory back then was he would pick two cars that ran close to the same, but he knew what they both ran and he would pair them, versus like they would throw a small tire shootout, stuff like that. So that grudge scene from when I grew up to what it's like today is a pretty big difference, but nothing compares to the scene we have here. But I think a lot of the stuff from out here has transferred back to over there.
See, in Cali, people race, I'm going to race you, right? It's one against another one. Out here, we do shootouts. You know, you get six,
A bunch of guys
10,
throw $100
16
in a
people.
pot and have fun. And that camaraderie in the shootouts is pretty, like, it's fun. Like, you're not going out. That's kind of separate than the grudge scene. Like, it's like a bunch of really fast dudes throw a bunch of money together and put a pot together, and they just, you know, may the best man win, you know, separate
Yeah.
from the grudge racing. But
And Cali Nate in California was the one that brought the shootouts to Cali.
yeah, he was big.
So before that, they didn't exist. And that was probably 2019, 2020.
Wow.
Like, it didn't
Yeah, I
exist.
thought it was there way before that.
Nope.
But
Yeah, maybe I don't like. I've paid so much attention to being out here, but he was big. You know, he spent so much time over on this side of the country that, you know, he left his car out here to race everything out here.
was the Hater Maker car the first LS swap car
For
that
us,
you did?
that was so like it's when we opened a shop, right? Like
No, before that.
in
240.
yeah, but that was still like we wanted a car that could hold its own against. Like, you go to a shop, you got a target, right? Everybody wants to beat you. Everybody wants my shop. We wanted a car that was like, this is our shop car. Like, a lot of times it ends up being like, the post is like this shop versus this, but it's not me versus that shop. Like, that was my shop car. So we wanted something that was like could hold its own. So that was our Grudge car. You know, we posted time slips back then because we wanted to see how fast.
What was the whole setup? It was a 427.
427 twin turbo, probably 2,000 horsepower, 1,800 horsepower, something like that. And we raced grudge races with that. We did Bodies with. It's really when we started grudge racing that car. But at first, it was just a time slip car. We just wanted to see how fast we could go.
And
with
what was the best you got out of it?
That car's locally here, so I can't.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a quarter mile. Like it went
on low sevens.
It went low sevens, quarter mile. But that car today is still floating around here in Dallas. It's fast. That motor had went 500 passes. It needs to get refreshed. Like it's time. I sold it super cheap. And
so, what was your first entry into? Because the '69 Camaro had the big block.
Yep.
It had many small blocks, but then the big block. And then you said your car.
So your first.
So I would have started. My first car was like a 5.0 Mustang, 94 Mustang. That was nothing. The first car I really got into was that Fox body.
5.0 like the old one, or what's that other one?
I had the
Which
SN95.
one?
The newer 5.0, what is that?
No.
Oh, yeah,
No,
that one.
yeah.
Yeah.
The C-word.
The SN95 is the one that I had. SN95 in high school, same as Hater Maker color, all that stuff.
But what car did you do a cam swap in that turned you on to LSs?
Oh, I did it in a Sanrail. That's what turned me on to and it was the sound of it, bro. There's nothing like the sound of a damn cammed LS. Like,
Yeah.
and I did a cam swap in an LS, and that's what turned it on.
Did it have a clear floor?
What?
Sandrail.
I don't know nothing about.
You ever been in a Sandrail with a clear floor?
No.
No.
Scary.
Worst decision
Yeah,
I ever
I'm
made.
like, no. Sounds,
No, because
sounds-
you could see it.
And a
Nauseous.
buddy that had a twin turbo,
Nauseating.
it was a twin turbo LS Sandrail. And I sat down and I looked down and I was like, is that glass on the floor? He goes, no, it's plexi. And I was like, why?
So you could see
And
the
he floored
wheelies.
it
Yeah.
so he could see.
I mean, when you wheelie. Yeah,
I mean, it's pretty fucking good.
It was so scary. Probably the scariest thing I've ever been in next to a boat.
Yeah. So we did a cam swap in an LS, and
I'm just-
the Sandrail, and then you did it in an F body.
So that was your first entry into LS? Was
Into
a
LS
Sandrail?
was to cam swap a Sanrail,
we
and
told our buddy, like, we got to put this in it. It's going to sound really good.
we had an LS3 Sanrail that didn't chop. I'm like, this is super. Like, what is this?
What is
you know? So we cam swapped it, and you know, that was the first entry level into it, and then I bought like a ZL 14 ZL1 at the time LSA deal, and we cam
LS7 swap 240.
Yeah, the LS7.
I didn't know you had a
swap too.
ZL1.
Yeah, we had a 5th gen. It was a 6-speed.
Before
We did
before
shift
E85
sector.
was even cool. Like it was E85 wasn't even a thing back then.
E85 was cool in 2011. I had E85 in my RX-7. And people were like,
I don't
what is
even-
that? I'm
Well,
like,
that's an import thing, so it was popular with imports.
it was an LS.
I will.
All my 6 other ones were rotaries. I learned my lesson
Maybe
6
in
times.
Texas, not in California.
But yeah, I remember there was one gas station in Baton Rouge, and it wasn't like an actual gas station. It was just a pump on the side of the road. And we would drive there with a barrel and go fill it up. I forget what it was. It was like by a petroleum station. There's one gas pump. And everybody's like, why do you run that? I was like, I don't know. I want to see what it does.
Yeah.
That's when you had to just change the stoic number to whatever the mix was because they didn't have flex fuel yet.
No,
So-
we used to go to car meets, and this guy in a Mercedes. It was a weird old Mercedes. And the guy was rolling around on E85, and he said, I've made this stuff. And we all thought he was crazy because it smelled like popcorn, right? And we're like, who is this guy? Lo and behold, he's the smartest guy in Southern California. Where he's making his own E85, his
I don't-
corn fuel.
Yeah,
And,
I don't
you know,
remember
it's
it being
great.
a thing early on. Like
We ran race gas.
Yeah, C16 a nitrous car. Like it was.
I ran it for like 4 years before I could get customers to start using it.
Yeah.
Now it's like the standard. Like I don't even want to tune pumpkin. Like I don't. It's
I know, 'cause
not.
it
It's not
smells
common.
bad
Like
and
yeah.
it just doesn't make power. And
Someone writes you an email like, "Oh, I want to do this with pump." What?
you're like, I made
Why?
800 on 93. I'm
Why?
like, that's gonna last a week. Who
Yeah,
cares?
why?
But yeah, that got us into the LS stuff, and like I.
So what was the deal with the ZL1? I've never even heard this story.
Oh yeah, I had this is on the roll racing days. You know, we
So
did.
you
we
used
did
to roll
shifts.
race?
Yeah, we
Yeah.
did
Oh, you
shift
used to roll?
sector. Yeah.
All right. Now we're getting somewhere.
When I was a kid, you know, before I grew up.
Hey.
It
Calm
was
down.
it was an LSA, and you think about this build today, right? LSA car, ZL1, 14 ZL1, like on 17 or 18 pounds of boost on pump gas, 91.
Wow.
Yeah, and it had and
We helped Banks
Yeah, Banks made like
the
a methanol injection kit for it.
So
but,
we
yeah.
we went to their
That's pretty
booth
cool.
in
I got to
SEMA
meet
for
Gail
it.
Banks. Like
Yeah.
that's
That's a life goal for me
Yeah.
still.
that
That's
was
pretty cool.
That was just the coolest dude, like to meet him. But yeah, it was 17 pounds of boost on a ZL1. It went like in today's world probably super slow. It went like 170, and I don't even know if that was half mile or what shift sector was back then. But it went like 170
I
miles
was
an hour.
pretty slow.
Something felt wrong about throwing your car in fifth gear and still be flooring it. Like it
Oh,
just, I just
yeah.
like it. If I would have data, I didn't know anything about tuning back then myself, and it was like if I could have looked at the intake air temps on that, like it would have
I
been
can only
pretty.
imagine what
yeah.
that looked like.
So that got us into, that was a cool car.
Was Gail as cool in person as he is on YouTube, where he caps
Yes.
people?
Yes.
Absolutely.
He's like,
cool.
I know you've heard this and this and this, but they're wrong.
No, he's
Here you
really
go.
cool.
And
met
I'm
me
like,
on like
I like that guy.
He met me on like a Saturday and showed me through the whole place
Went to
and
their
like
shop.
went to the shop. It was like just me and him. It was
That's
like
crazy.
a cool moment. Like it'll just sit with me forever that you got to meet someone like that. And he was not like some big business guy hiding away. He was just down to earth, cool as hell. And he's like, we
That's
can't
awesome.
go in there. There's some military stuff going on over there. Like he was very like, but I could show you all this other stuff. And his
As
it
weird
was
as
cool.
it seems like a lot of the people in Cali are like that. You would think they'd be stuck up because they're from Cali, but
Oh yeah, no.
Hey,
but
hey, hey.
like to IPSI.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Mike's,
When I went into
yeah.
town,
Mike's awesome.
I just stopped by a shop, normal
Yes.
guy hanging out, shows me his stuff, tells me how he got going. He called me Sunday from Maui. I'm like, bro, just call me back tomorrow.
We met him like through Maggie, like when he was racing when the first 2650 came out with the 2 throttle body deal that they had everywhere.
Because he was the president of Magnuson.
Yeah, and he was like driving, like he was just a
He
driver.
always went to
of
the red
car.
list stuff.
Yeah, he was always at Red List all
Oh.
the time. Super nice guy. Like that
Damn.
Camaro, like probably debuted at Red List. Like I remember it back then. Super nice guy, like easy to talk to.
We got to get him on at some point.
Yeah,
Ooh.
Mike Sitar.
yeah.
But
I gotta ask you, because for those that are watching and they, you're talking about pump gas and the 85. Why wouldn't you take a customer who wants 93 in their car?
I mean, I'll take it, but like, here's what's going to happen here is I'm going to take a car in that wants 93, and then he's going to go race somebody on the 85. Same mods, like mod for mod, like just the cooling effect of that fuel, the octane effect of it. Like just take a Z06 bone stock, you just put a flex fuel sensor on it, E50, you're going to pick up 70 wheel, 100 wheel. So nothing, I'm not against it, but a lot of people's preconceptions now are like, oh, it's going to rot out my fuel system. Or like GM's been using, I think, since 06.
2004.
96.
Okay,
96.
see, so even older. They,
That's
like,
the other thing. A lot of people don't realize that, but they're like, oh, you got to change the fuel lines. You've seen it on the forums,
Yeah.
right? But they've had a federal mandate on fuel lines accepting ethanol. I know at least on GM side, just because I was in that world since 96.
It's pump
And then
race fuel.
people are like, well, if you put E85, it'll rot the lines. And I'm like, what do you think's in pump gas? 10% minimum.
Yep.
And it's always that 10%.
yeah.
Crazy how they get that one
9.4.
so accurate, but they can't get the 85 accurate.
It's just it's I consider it free horsepower in a lot of the stuff. Like a lot of the misconceptions is like you'll get any LT4 platform like, oh, I want to put a pulley on it. Well, you just skipped like the best first step. You added boost. Now I got to drop the timing to match, the octane of the fuel. And California was 91. So like the difference even between 91 and 93 from going there to here was a pretty big jump. And I found when we moved here, it was harder to get people on E85 because 93 was such a big jump up. Like when we first came, it was like, you want a 93 tune? Like, I'll do it. But why are we not sticking a $350 flex fuel sensor on it and getting the gain with that?
Well, that's what if you've noticed it in the Corvette world too. Like you do just a pulley on a C7, you gain 40, 50,
Yeah.
or you could just do the flex and gain 100.
And then go do that pull back to back. So take that one you put a pulley on, do 2 pulls on it,
And it's dead.
Go
It's
look at
done.
you have no more power. Like the intake air temps have killed that whole next pull. Where E85, it just in a boosted application, like without getting into crazy exotic fuels, and it's just a very simple,
Right.
easy platform to stick on.
Customers want to buy parts, right? Everybody just wants to buy something, put it on their car. A pulley's cooler than a flex fuel sensor, right?
Because you can see it. I mean, you can see a flex fuel sensor.
They think it's going to make their blower sound louder. Screw this putting in fuel. I don't want to have to do that. That sounds like a chore. But I'm like, but you can make literally double the amount of power.
And it smells better.
And it does smell better. It's cheaper. But I'm here to show you how to make power, not just like plop something on.
They want that wine.
And it's better for the environment.
It is. Yeah, it's better for us. I used to sell it as like, because I come from $6 a gallon, gas place, So like I used to be able to sell a flex fuel tune as like some people would actually math it out, like what the cost for the tune in flex fuel was versus what the cost per gallon was, even with like a 30% reduction in miles per gallon. Like it would pay itself off.
I don't even think it's that bad.
No, I don't think so.
Escalade's on flex fuel.
It depends
And it's
how
not
you
a
drive
flex
it.
fuel vehicle.
Yeah, you just make it work.
It's $2 a gallon versus $4 a gallon.
Exactly.
It maths
So
out
see,
for me.
your mindset's there with it. It's
Well, and
good,
I could run 30 degrees of timing on it.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. True. So E85 is life. Like it's just, I rarely once a year, like it's very, no one comes in here and just wants, like most people, they want flex fuel or you have to educate them on like, this is
I'm
why we do it.
pretty good at educating about the flex fuel situation.
Yeah.
So back to Irwindale.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we're all over the place. I got to
You
try my
guys-
timelines.
It's fine. I mean,
Okay.
Yeah. You're good. You're good.
You guys got engaged at the track or took the pictures at the track, right?
That was such,
How did that even become a thing?
So I didn't take a job unless I had Thursdays off.
like, it wasn't like,
Unless-
It was
what?
I
Thursdays
did-
off.
I didn't
Okay.
take a job unless I had Thursdays off for Irwindale.
Right.
Right. That's how much we went. I'm telling you, when we went from 2004 to 2019, every single Thursday, I
you
wasn't
didn't
lying.
miss. It was like life. You would think like if I missed a Thursday, that was
missed-
like
I don't think we missed a
we don't miss
Thursday.
it. It would never
Yeah.
happen. Even if the car was broke, we were there. It was like the coolest
man.
thing. And Irwindale, so the way the stages or the stands went is you got to drive by in front of the crowd after you made your pass. So there's nothing like
very interactive.
popping off a
Yeah.
pretty quick pass and then going in front. It was a cool.
You got like crowds cheering.
And we
You
were
know?
like, all we cared about was quarter mile. We had California Speedway at the time, and that's all we wanted. And someone had told us, no, you need to go 8th mile racing and see this. And
I was like, no.
once we went, like that was that. Like, and we were not even racing people. We were just racing ourselves, like going down the track.
Yeah. The track
Imagine not
dedication-
carrying.
How not fun,
So
right?
here's how it went though: is you had your regular street cars, and then they had the EX lane. Well,
Exhibition.
the exhibition lane was anything that was fast. So you went in the left lane, and they stuck a slow street car next to you. So that's how it works. So your fast car, you're always racing like a 15-second Honda, whatever it may be, and you never got to actually race a fast car. So that was our growing up at
we
racing.
didn't race
8th
Pro
mile.
Tree. It was all sportsmen.
Yeah, there's no Pro Tree. Like I didn't even know what that was. Like,
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. We were deprived.
We used to go on the third yellow. It'd be like yellow, yellow, and by the time you'd go on the third yellow.
I think of all the shops that I deal with, and I don't think I've ever seen the track dedication that they have. Like every event I come to up here, they're there.
Yes.
We just went to a rental not too long ago, just randomly, and they're there.
But we'll
I'm like,
go.
Man, that's crazy.
We like hanging out. So the tracks here, they're open way more hours than our other track,
It's a little
right?
hard. Everybody like Thursday they want me to be at Yellow Belly, and then XRP's open Sunday, and then I got to work a full work week, and then Yellow Belly's again Thursday,
Yeah.
and then if we need to fit a test in between.
but they still do it.
But another thing in California, our tracks closed at 10 p.m. Street lights came on, bam, track closed. What did Stefan post? Like, hey, the track cost goes up after midnight. Like, we've raced till like the sun comes up. It's been 7 o'clock in the morning the next day.
Where's
on the
that at?
tracks here? Oh, Jake's race all the time. Sun up, sun
Any
down.
radial race will
yeah.
go until like the sun comes up.
Radio Roundup, Jake's race. Like, they are finishing the finals H-Town with the sun up.
Yeah, I think we did that the first time I went to the Street Outlaw filming.
You can't function at 6 in the morning after racing all down. Your brain's like,
Brain fried.
It's like 6:37. I'm like, the sun's coming up. I'm like, yeah,
We've
we still got 6 pairs to go. And I'm like, can we leave? They're like, no, nobody can leave. I'm like, I'm going to sleep in the grass.
We've never been in the finals that far in a race. Heaven forbid us having to function and cut a tree at the sun coming up. After, yeah, no.
Damn.
Or
But
before
yeah,
we
we-
get lost, the engagement.
Oh,
yeah.
yes. I don't even know whose idea that was. Was it yours or mine? It was just that was that big of a part of life that we're like, we need our engagement pictures at Irwindale.
I saw the pictures. They were awesome.
I found the actual copies
Cue the
of
pictures.
it too.
That was 2009.
Yeah, 2009.
2009 we got
Hold on.
engaged.
Was it on a Thursday?
No,
No,
it
I
probably
don't
went on a
think so.
Saturday or something.
Yeah, I don't think so. The actual photographer that took the picture, he was the photographer that would shoot the cars every Thursday. So Mike Morgan, he would. You
so
could
that's
order
who took the
pic-
pictures.
The
Yes,
guy who
so
shot
the
the
guy that shot
cars.
the pictures of all the cars.
That's funny.
We were like his first engagement pictures
And
at
I-
Irwindale.
And I don't like. I'm not gonna use. We weren't celebrities there. We were very known and we were fast. So if you took
I'm still the fastest female there, by the way.
yeah, what we were doing there to here, like you bring that car here, you ain't shit. You took what you were fast there. Like I swear, in living there and having like California in our scene of racing was like 10 years behind what Texas was doing. And I remember like watching, why do these people get all these checks out here? Like everybody's got checks, like they're winning money, and we didn't have nothing. Like just the amount of racing out here made you so much more competitive. So when we came here, like the competition was really a lot different to go race next to a car, you know.
So your progression through the cars, because I'm trying to put this timeline together
okay,
here.
so our first high school, we had 15-second car, like the Camaro, the Mustang. Like
15, 14.
But yeah, she was always 14. And I think it switched. And no, she had a convertible Mustang in 2000.
I had a New Edge. I had
Yes, you had a
another
New
New
Edge.
Edge. It was convertible. It was a nitrous 2-valve. I'm sorry.
So that's SN95?
No, that's a New
That's
Edge.
New Edge.
Yeah, so her
Yes.
high school
Okay.
car was a New Edge,
So
convertible.
the SN95 is the softer looking one.
Yes.
Right before
Yep,
that.
Yep.
Okay.
So that.
Sorry, my own clarity.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was the first race car we probably raced was your Mustang.
Yep.
And like with a tire on it, and we sprayed nitrous through it. The first car we maxed credit cards out on and blew it up. Like
Well, the first
week.
time we realized we need to get a trailer for racing vehicles. It'd probably be good to bring a trailer.
Yeah, yeah.
Or else you got to like get a tow truck.
So that was the first car we raced, and then the nitrous 240. We wanted to build a drift car, so we started building a drift
Yes,
car.
we did build. We
It
were
made
we did not make it. We had a D1 spec.
You were gonna
cage.
drift it, and
We
you
put
turned it
slicks
into a
on
drag
We
car.
put slicks on it and game
I
over.
probably went to like some parking lot in Ontario, like whipped
That's
it
on my
around two
YouTube.
times, and
It's
I was
on my
like,
YouTube.
It's on YouTube.
It is.
Yeah, it is. It is. And
It's so bad.
And it's me
Gotta
trying to
cue
do
that
a
up.
drift, and I couldn't do it.
It's so bad.
So it started as a drift car, like hilarious. I sucked at it. We gave it up.
No, we put slicks on it and then we started street racing it.
But
and
we
then in
manually,
Mexico.
we had a manual transmission in that car, went 640s, manual trans, all motor LS7. Used to pop axles like constant. That's all over YouTube.
How'd you get the decision to put an LS7 in it?
A buddy had it. So no, that had 3 iterations. It started as a
LS1?
as a old school LS1. I'm talking like an aluminum block at least, but like the old F body LS1. Lifted a ringland in it, and then we put probably piston rod combo in it. And I want to say that one, we were on our way to the track, and I was banging gears in it, shot a rod out of the side of the block. And then the next iteration of it, a buddy had a 440 LS7 in it. That thing was fun. Like
In a manual.
In a manual.
Jeez.
And it car, what's that car weigh? 2,800
Yeah,
pounds.
maybe.
If that.
It went 10 flat. We could never go 9s in it. Like 10
On the motor.
in the motor. And then I think I was done killing clutches in it, so we put a power glide in it. First rip off the trailer, 570. And
That's
that car's
funny.
still around today too. And I sold that thing like in 2010 probably.
My blue RX-7 that I had is a manual trans.
Yeah.
10-0, 10-0, 10-0, 10-0.
Yeah.
990 once. Put a power glide in it. 890 first pass.
Oh.
Yeah. and this
I was like, what the heck? Well, I put nitrous on it then. Well, motor would do the 990.
And that
but it's
one-
funny. It seems like that's about where they
And
limit
then
out.
And then the stick, actually, we can talk about that too. But after that, I wanted to build something different. So we had a bunch of nitrous cars, right? And I'm like, let's build something that we've never done before. So that's where the Hater Maker came in with the twin turbos.
So
right?
straight from,
Nitrous LS7 240.
Yeah, and it was probably
well, where'd the ZL1 and all that come in?
I mean, that was like a street car.
Yeah, but we took. I would say
We took a break.
I say take a break, right? Like we were done with the weekly beating up and breaking the cars, so we got the ZL1, and we just wanted to go out and hang out with all our friends, go to car meets, and the roll racing came in there in the middle. I really don't think we drag raced it much because it was manual. Like
I mean, I did it. We did
I
quarter
was about
mile
to say,
and
I've
eighth
seen her
mile.
behind a manual. And
Yeah,
I
well,
was like,
that
I
didn't
did.
come yet. That was the new Edge, but
But we knew we were going to break. I think the clutch was going out,
That-
and then we stopped.
that one we took a break with, right? That was our take a break car. I cammed a ZL1. It was fun. We used to go down to like Huntington Beach and hunt Ferraris. That was our thing. Saturday morning,
PCH.
go find Ferraris on PCH, and that was like, that's every weekend we did that. So that's what that car did.
why not a CTSV?
I probably didn't even think of that as an, I don't know. Or was it even a thing? But I guess it would have been a thing
I
back
don't
then.
think
right?
it was a
the thing.
thing.
I don't remember.
It wasn't
probably
a thing.
too
First.
It was probably too expensive for me because that ZL1 was like had to have been a fraction of the cost of the CTSV
No, they're
back
about
then.
what?
It was
Because the
cheaper
V come
for
out
sure.
09.
We like Camaros. We're Camaro
Yeah.
people. Can't you tell?
I can
Yeah.
tell.
Yeah, right.
Like we are
Couple of
Camaro
them.
peoples.
couple,
Like,
you said a couple.
There's 1 or 12 in here.
So that was our taking a break, and then that led us into Hater Maker. I wired the car myself from the first time. I didn't do fabrication work, so someone had fabbed up all the turbos. I put it all together, and we got it running and racing. I'd say the first month, kicked the rod out of it.
Damn.
You know, instantly.
I did that.
She did it. And it's like the first time I put her in the car, kicked the rod, there was some issues with the build. And this is where I first linked up with LME, which kind of brings us to where we're at today with them. 2016, called them for a motor, put the motor in it, and that car ran all the way until I sold it in 2021, probably from 16 to 21.
Now, was this your first turbo?
First actual fast car that like went in the fours, right? Like that was.
But this is your first ever turbo anything?
Ever turbo, first ever aftermarket ECU.
I was
never
say,
messed
how
with
did you handle the tuning and all that?
It scared the I didn't know. Like I had to learn a lot with it. You
What
know,
ECU?
Yeah, it was Pro EFI.
Okay.
So I had worked with Jason directly on that early on when I did it, and kind of that's really what pushed me into the tuning. Like I would say the aftermarket ECUs push you to be better in the standalones or the factory stuff. We tuned it all at the track. It was on the dyno like once early on when we did it, and
We had a Mustang dyno, so it had slicks on it, and that doesn't go very far.
yeah, I made like 900 wheel, and you know, back then is when I learned about Pro EFI. So Jason came out, helped me set everything up, and we just started with that. And then you just constantly progress. And I thought I knew it all, and then I started radio racing. And I'm talking to Lang, who was the chassis guy, and he taught me how to use the G meter and dump valves and race timer. In my head, cutting power was never an idea. It was like, you could have all the power in the world. Why do you know, I have this badass chassis? Why can't I use it? So I learned power management on that car.
Yeah, that's a big step.
Yeah, and that
tuning
car,
there.
you know, like in California, it would go, you know, we got stuck at 5.0 for a whole summer, and I had to learn about power management and all that. And then bring it to Texas, you couldn't get that car to go in the fives if you tried. You know, it was super fast. I'm not going to say how fast cars. You couldn't get it to go in the five. You can't look at that car and realize it goes fours, like, you know.
Yeah.
But that's where her LS9 Mustang came in. All the spare parts off this car that I wanted to upgrade got donated to that car. So if I needed new shocks, the hater maker got the shocks, and we started building that car.
Yeah, so how that car came around, someone hit us up. We were known at that track, right? So fastest car on Netflix hit us up for season 1. I wasn't really interested. You know, we filmed for other TV shows before, and they were just kind of weird. And then we saw season 1 come out, and I'm like, this is actually a really good show. So they hit me up for season 2, and I was like, I don't have a car, but I will build one for it. So we had 2 months to build a car, and one of our customers had a ZR1,
ZR1.
and he totaled it in autocross, a road course, and he sold us the motor and the trans
For
out
like
of it.
$12,000, bro. Whole drive line.
Damn.
Now, was
Fuel
this in
system-
California or was
Yeah,
this
it's
here?
This is in California. And so he sold it to us for a really great price. I think the car had 2,000 miles on it.
Yeah.
And so I wanted it to be stick because I like making things difficult. You know, that's how I do. And he was very mad at me for that, you know. But that's what I wanted to do. I wanted a challenge. So we ended up selling the trans out of the Corvette because that's not going to fit in the Mustang. And I bought a T56.
Look at that monster. No, was it monster?
Yep.
Who made that? Whatever that Magnum T56
RPM.
is. RPM
Yeah,
T56. Man, I went through so many clutches in that car. Like you know, power shift it, bam, you see smoke coming through the firewall.
Yeah, but then we moved to Monster and it was good.
Yeah.
But so we built that. Well, he built me that car in 2 months for this show.
That whole show was real frustration.
Yeah.
Real. Never had tested shit. And they were on a Tuesday, be like, we're filming. We need to see a video of this car driving today.
It wasn't even running.
Car wasn't even like, we're just pushing out in the parking lot. Like, I had no clue. We had bought this car with 300 and something thousand miles on it.
Oh my gosh.
We, you know, the guy next door painted, and he was like, I could paint it for you, but don't go over 80 miles an hour. It's going to come off. Like, he's being a smart ass. Like, we painted it. So everything that happened on that show was like real life.
When they
struggles
filmed
on
me
that
going
car.
down the track, that was the first time I ever did anything in that car.
Wow.
And like we're having some tuning issues
My
with like
tip-in fueling was
throttle.
shit.
Like
Like, it
I
was-
had no gas, guys. I had no gas
When
pedal.
you go power shifted, like had no Excel enrichment, whatever it was.
And
it'd be
so you
dead.
can see my frustration a little bit in the show, but then we got it figured out a little bit. But that was the first supercharged car we ever built. You know,
That car went like 8.0 in the quarter. Damn close. Like LS9, That was
With the
probably
manual.
we're in the 9s there. We had to put the automatic in it to go that fast.
Oh, yeah.
But that one, like, that was probably the best LS9. I've like got so many passes on that damn thing. But
I mean, it was a stock motor all the way
stock
through.
motor,
all the way
heads
till
cam,
all the
Jeep-
way till it didn't hold anymore.
all the way until the rod came out of the bottom of it. But
Yeah, but there was a lot of passes on
minimum
that car.
500 passes on that car. Like
Wow.
we
Probably more
raced,
than that.
we raced that car from 2018 to it just put it to
2
rest like
years.
2 years ago. But yeah,
But we went from stock LS9 to Kong ported LS9 to Kong's 2650, and then I was the only one to have his 3100.
bro, 24 pounds of boost, 24 degrees of timing. I had to run the ID 1300s to like 105 psi because they were hanging on for dear
So
life.
you don't do that on customers' cars.
Yeah, on that car though, like I wasn't gonna put big injectors in it. Like I was gonna crank the fuel pressure up a little bit, and it lived. Like that was a testament. And that between that car and my car on Pro EFI, man, like I could not knock that engine management system. Like it kept everything alive. We had fuel hoses blow off the regulators, like just track things, and that computer system would fix it every time. So that was a pretty solid car.
On the LS9, what did what was the power at the time that you blew it?
Man,
Well,
I don't even.
It went from 800.
When we popped the motor, though,
Oh,
it
probably
happened in a
about
burnout,
1300.
which I'm glad it happened to the burnout. It shot the rod right out of the oil pan. I got to be 1300. Man, I don't know. Like, what's funny is it was never really dynoed. It got dynoed like at 800, and then we kept changing stuff at the track. But I like had to have made 1300 right around.
If we would have just taken that motor apart and put some ARP bolts in it, I'm sure it
I
would.
don't even know if ARP bolts would be a thing that would have saved that motor. I don't think.
No.
No,
It just was just abuse.
Well, it was a titanium rod. They
Yeah,
fatigue over time, and I mean that car probably had more than 500 passes.
Oh, at least. And I was
Like-
watching the one podcast. They're talking about like checking the coating on the rods, and I go double guess. Like that car, like this one's a whole nother animal. Like to put that car back together was just such a simple.
That was something I had heard of, and apparently that's a big thing. I don't know what the coating's for, neither did they, but I have seen them where they've had to recoat them when we pulled apart like LS7s.
Yeah.
Because I'm big on leaving those rods in because the way they rev and it just
There's
they
nothing.
work.
When you drove that car, it was just butter smooth.
Soft.
Like,
Nobody
just-
in the comments said anything about what the coating does either.
I
don't
have
know.
no clue.
But it was a big thing. We
I
had to
think
send the
one guy
rods
did.
off to have it done.
Yeah.
But so what about when you did the fastest car being a girl? Because girls can't go fast.
No, they can't. It was fun. I mean, I always like picking on the boys.
Me in particular.
Yeah.
We met some cool people on that show, but like
You remember who you were running?
Manny Kabashian was one of the guys, and
Justin with
Justin with Atlanta Custom
ACW.
Wraps.
Neil
Neil.
of Frustrate EG, all-wheel
Oh,
drive
okay,
Honda.
nice, nice.
I think he went to the 6s just recently.
Yeah.
That car's fast.
Yeah.
Lyle Barnett. We've met a lot of great people.
Lyle. When you heard Lyle Barnett was probably like, that was pretty. Meet him in person, like that was cool. There's some cool people we met,
Yeah.
on that
You could
show.
tell though when I go, like when I went to the fastest car, when they see a girl, they're just like,
Yeah, that's
Shit.
just something like coming up in the racing scene.
Yeah.
And I've seen it because I watch Wendy go through it, and then I watch her, gap all of them at the tree.
yeah.
They have a change of heart after.
I mean,
but
you don't
but
want to lose to a girl. I don't
it's-
want to lose to a girl.
I don't mind because it's gonna sound really bad, but I'm kind of used to it with her. I mean, we built her car. She went 850. It took me a year to beat her car with mine, and I had way more money in my car. So
Bro,
I'm kind of used to it. And the funny thing is, she wasn't into cars when we got together. I mean, we built that car. Well, she had a couple, slower cars, maybe 1,000 horsepower, maybe.
Just
But
1,000 horsepower.
you know what I'm saying? But then we did that car, and her first pass, I think she went like a 950, and then within a year, she's doing 850s, or 10 months, I think it was. And just to watch her pick that up, you go to the track with these guys all the time. I can't get dudes to do a burnout properly.
Nope.
Yeah.
But
Been there.
with her, it's like, hey, take this car, do this. Boom, burnout's perfect, staging's perfect, pass is perfect. I'm like,
Well, see, I'm going to admit, like, I learned how to race from obviously my dad, right? I grew up in a tub truck with a blower hanging out of the hood. My dad would just burn out the entire street, right? I had no fear. I still don't. I'll respect it, but I didn't have any fear. Then I learned how to drive from watching him. So I can't knock him that bad because I literally learned how to drive from watching him drive.
Nothing will piss you off more than, like, my car was just the hater maker was starting to get fast. I'm like, hey, make a hit in it. You know, I want you to feel it. And she makes a hit, and
don't do that.
It like PBs faster than me. And then I look at the data log, and you see the TPS doing this because she's so short. The G-force was pulling her off the gas pedal. I'm like, she just went faster than me, and she couldn't even get the foot to the fucking floor.
We went to LS Fest.
Made no sense.
So I retired him.
I was like, I'm done.
We went to LS Fest, and we had the turbo CTSV, right? And we set up the auto upshift, right? Sorry.
You're good.
We set up the auto upshift, you know, but you got to be to the floor.
Yeah.
So if you back off, it won't shift. She goes out there, and as the boost comes in, you can watch her foot come off the
Like,
pedal.
push you back.
And it misses the shift. She goes, "What happened?" I'm like,
No
"You
gas.
fool!" Scoot your
That
seat
happens
up.
all the time, though. Like, data log ain't gonna lie. Period. End of story. I could see accelerator pedal and throttle pedal. Two differences there. Like,
Yep.
if the throttle closes, my fault. I did something wrong in the tune. Accelerator pedal. All over the years, no one in particular, I just have seen it so many times. I'm like, you lift? No way. I'm like, it happens.
I
like,
tell people
get
to scoot your seat up.
Get
Yep.
closer to the steering wheel, and like,
You'd be surprised. They don't know it. They don't think
Yeah.
that's
you don't
happening.
realize, or you think something's going on in the car. Even me being in a car racing, sometimes I'm like, did the air shifter shift it or did I shift it? You know, and that frustrated me. So I like got rid of all that shit. Like, I knew that I was the one doing it, but everything's such a blur when you start getting into that speed that you don't realize, and you look at the data log, you're like, oh shit, like that really happened like that. But
we even touched on it with Matt, you know, with him taking Beverly to the track. He went through the same
yeah.
thing. A lot of people, I feel like they're just uncomfortable. Like, even the back of my car being pink hurts people's feelings. It does. It legit hurts their feelings. And I think it's just maybe it's a masculine
Bro, I've
problem.
been-
Of
put
course,
on
it's
the
a
trailer-
masculine thing, and it's
Ego-
fine.
ego thing, yeah.
I
But-
find it entertaining, but
But you know, you can't ever challenge them to the PB. You know?
no, I got put on the trailer by, like, I swear the girl was learning how to drive her dad's car. She might have been like
This was
16.
in- this was in
It was in
Texas.
Texas in my car, and my car was rolling back then. And like, I was like, oh, you know, I wasn't looking down like she was going to be any slower, but she put me on the trailer first round. I'm like, damn. Like, and the car wasn't slow. I'm like, yeah, I'm done. Like, that's it.
We had my brother he bought the new Supra, right?
Yeah.
Bone stock car. So it's Thanksgiving.
Z4.
Huh?
a Z4.
BMW Z4.
Right. Z4. So it's Thanksgiving, and all my brothers, everybody's there. So we're all Draggy in the car, seeing who can get the fastest time by ourselves. She hops in there with a passenger and beats everybody. I'm like, I don't
give
get
up.
it.
I'm
What
sticking to the
what did she do
laptop.
different?
I have a very aggressive throttle. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I only know on.
But that's what Matt said too. He's similar like me. We like to do the data. We like to see what it's doing. I think
Yeah,
too much
I-
going down the track. I don't know if you feel the same way. But the girl, they get in there, they're
on.
light, and I'm gonna make it over there.
That's it.
And that's it.
Yep.
And
Whether
I know
you're
she's
like
that 'cause
this
I don't
or
like-
you're not.
we
she's
went-
like this and
Yeah.
still holding into
We
it.
went for a long time with having two race cars, and that's why we sold the one. I think I found more enjoyment being behind the laptop. I'll jump in a car today and go do it, but I do get more enjoyment out of being behind the laptop and like putting the energy into that than when I was in the car and then she's up next round. We're racing two different classes.
Yeah,
we're
we-
bringing two different cars.
a lot.
It's way too stressful.
We tried that with the V's.
Yeah,
It's
it's
a lot.
not. It just.
But then we're both doing a 14 and a 1700 horsepower car that are
Yeah.
heavy.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
So we'd break one or we'd break the other, and then it's like stressful.
And then you're still in going rounds, and then that car is not, or you're trying to get that car to the next round.
One car will always get neglected.
Or I'm stealing parts off of her so I can
Yeah.
make the next round.
I think I don't know if I'd ever. I mean, we had a stacker trailer, both race cars. We'd take them everywhere. I don't know if I'd ever want to have two cars. Two race cars again. That was way too stressful. So, like, I'd rather have the money into one done right, like we did with this one. Everything we did that we saw that was a flaw in my car, that was a flaw in her silver car, we found it in a car like this, and we just are going to stick to that and race how we're going to race that one. Because when you break something in two cars, number one, the financial part sucks when you got two race cars to do it. and that they won't get time. One's going to sit in the trailer the whole damn time and not going to get fixed, like, or it's going to be fixed at the track.
That's what I would find is like we'd go to the track and I'd be like, I don't really want to run mine. Like the C7, I was so excited to get a C7, and then she gets in it and she's nailing it and loving it, and I'm like, I don't even want to drive. People are like, why you don't race your own car? I'm like, well, why would I? First off, she's faster. She's quicker on the tree.
Lighter.
Well, you can watch the car. It's fun watching the car.
Well, sometimes you see it when you're outside. You're like, oh shit, this, like, you know.
It's fun when somebody's talking shit and be like, you want me to call my wife?
That used to work for us for the longest time, but it don't work no more. Now people ain't stupid enough. Like, yeah.
There's always that one.
Not
Down
out here.
south in the valley, they're big on women. Women hate bad.
Where?
In the valley.
No.
That's Mexico, Texas.
Oh, I was like, what?
Oh, okay.
They're bad down there. That's why
like
my car
NorCal
got called a
Valley.
mermaid car.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, man, I'm surprised you could tell what color it was. You were so far behind it. I don't. But he got his feelings hurt so bad just from the color.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't know if I've experienced like the hate in that. Like, I think we've always had such fast stuff that like the respect kind of came with it. Like we weren't trying to be someone we weren't. Like we've always had, like 2007, I went 540 in a car, and and she raced that car back then too. Like, so back when we started going that fast, like the cars were we were known for having fast cars. So even all through California, it wasn't like weren't took lightly, on the type of cars we had.
So what about when you came into Texas?
Bro.
And like what?
It took me
not only that, but like what of all the places in the country, right? Okay, I could see Texas because of the racing.
Yeah.
But why Dallas over Houston?
I didn't
Tracks.
But it's like not even has anything to do with racing. I hadn't even seen a racetrack yet. I just like the vibe, right? That's just what it is.
Were you visiting first, or?
Well, I was working for BMW, and they used to fly us around to go sit with other dealers, like suit and tie, nitty gritty, stupid. Like
GM did the same.
Yeah, and I
20 group.
it was a 20 group is what it was called. But I landed here and I got on the phone. I told her, I was
He
like,
was in
we're moving
Grapevine,
here.
Texas. He went to South Lake.
It was South Lake. So, I mean, South Lake in like 2014, probably before everything was like, I saw a mansion and it was like $1 million. Like that don't even get you a 3.2 in California, And so I had seen it, just the vibe there, and I hadn't even seen a track. And the funniest thing is, fast forward when we moved here, the first track that Tiana went to was Yellow Belly. And so imagine having a, like my car at the time, the Hater Maker, was pretty and just detailed. And so that was kind of a shocker, like, oh, fuck, this is where I'm going to race this car?
Right.
Like it just wasn't the place that
excited.
I saw. I hadn't seen XRP
I
yet.
saw a single cab with 2 dudes and a husky in the middle. And I think they
dog
might have
or
a dog,
Yeah.
a dog, a dog,
That could happen there too.
a dog. And I was just standing there, just going down the track. They're doing like 6 burnouts, and I'm just like, what is going on here? There's so many people on the line. It was just outlaw track, and I'm like, I'm in heaven. I'm in straight heaven right
And
now.
I didn't.
I'm in heaven.
She was more
Everybody
like
else is stressed out. She's
Yeah.
like,
no, and so
awesome. My mother-in-law was like, "You are not going to race here." I was like, "Oh, I will be racing here.
so
Don't
that was
you
like
trip."
the first track we had seen. I was like, oh man, I made a mistake. Like this is.
So I ended up coming. He called me and he said, "You need to come to this place. This place feels like home." And I was like, "Okay, I'll go check it out."
I said, go find a house.
Go
like,
find a
just
house.
find one.
It's fine.
Like, just figure it
I
out.
rented a RT Challenger. I took it to XRP.
of course.
I met, all the awesome people there, and this guy with a Scat Pack. It was like a Charger.
She straight Grudge Racing a
I
rental
did.
car.
I grudge race, and I barely lost in an RT, and the guy was so offended. Like he was mad.
And so like then. Like I was like,
we're moving here.
And then I saw XRP and I got started on that whole vibe. And man, the competition's different. Like there's cars that you would never expect go 430, with the 180 out back. Like that's a fast car. So you got to take your losses. Like we learned how to lose against
I never
cars
lost
like that.
before
Yeah.
I came here.
Like you get
Ever.
handed an L every day of the week when you're racing cars of that caliber. And it's just, I could see why the racing here is so fast, because you just constantly have to push yourself. In California, I don't think the cars were as fast as obviously coming here, and
They didn't have the tracks to do it.
they didn't have the tracks to do it. Like there were some people putting in work there, but the the radial scene here, and that's where we started, is in the radial scene. I'd taken a seat back at Yellow Belly. I just heard things about it, and like we spent a lot of time radial racing, but at that point you were racing wallets, right? It was just the guy would show up with a toter that my stacker would fit in, and all his shit would match all the same color, and like you didn't even have a chance.
We can't play.
I couldn't play in that field. So I raced my car for a while. The time came to sell it, and this is where we had the silver LS9 car, and that was the first car we took to Yellow Belly. And I remember the first time we went, and then I had met Stefan here and there, Stefco, a couple of times, and he saw us there, and he went and like sat on her like door seal and was like, you know, this track is a little different than what you guys are used to, and this and that. And man, she loved it there. Like Irwindale was skinnier. Like Yellow Belly has more room.
Yellow Belly's got some room to play.
Yeah,
you know,
so
you can get a little crazy and you'll somewhat be okay.
So she fell in love with that track, and I mean, we were just there last week or whenever. I was spending a bunch of time there now, but the racing is what got me here, and then like, you know, the XRP vibe, but then Yellow Belly, like I do like that place a lot.
We do track support, so. You know, Sunday at XRP is a good TNT and Grudge day. So if we have a new build out, you know, we get a lot of newbie customers that are into just wanting to get into drag racing, right? I think they see a passion that we have, and they're like, well, we want to go to the drag race. Can you teach me how to do it? And I'm like, okay, you know, we'll teach you. You know, I'd say watch the light, you know, stupid stuff.
Some
like
people
that.
have never
Just
even left on a tree before, or like they just.
So I have them watch it, and I kind of explain to them what to do. So XRP is a great place to take beginner racers. That's for sure. Yellow Belly, not so much, but
Anything going down there.
Why not Yellow Belly?
Because, I mean, it's
Because the viewers are like, okay, what's Yellow Belly, right?
Yeah, so like some people like.
Yellow Belly is a drag strip made in 1955, right? Outlaw, 8th Mile.
You're afraid to get your car dirty there? Not the place for you. And you're afraid. And some people, Bodie was the first event I ever got to drive through a crowd of people.
To do a burnout.
Loved it. Coolest shit ever.
It's intoxicating.
Like it was like I would do that, and you see people pointing. Like
so Yellow Belly, you drive through a crowd in a very, very small space.
And that might intimidate people.
I think it's a little bit intimidating. I mean, if you grew up with it, you don't know anything different, right?
Yeah.
But if you go to XRP and then there, I think it's a bit different. But I find it intoxicating, you know, going through a crowd and. I mean, put the car on the two-step.
Something about getting down that track, though, too. You know, like it's cool. It's a thing to go fast there. You know, like we in her car, like fuck, man, 530 or better there at that track, and stock LS9 motor car, like you know that car was getting it at that track, and that was
on slicks.
This was in 2020, you know, 2021. Like it was a while ago that we were doing it when we were racing there. No, 2022, you know, like the car just got down. We weren't afraid to scratch that car there. We weren't afraid to get it dirty. We weren't afraid of people leaning on it. I mean, if it would have hit, it would have hit. Like it's a Mustang at that point.
She wouldn't have lifted.
If she wouldn't have lifted,
she'd have hit the wall. She's still been in it.
I think the first time we went there, we stood on the back bumper. Like
yes, I did.
First time she went.
Yeah.
So
instantly.
I seen the video. Yeah.
So I love seeing his mind think, right? So I tried to introduce, hey, let's do something new, right? Let's do something that, you know, we build these every day. Let's do something different. So no prep, you know, let's learn how to
You weren't
learn
racing
tuning.
racing wallets at that point, right? When you get into
You're
the
racing
no
the
preps,
tuning.
Yeah. You're racing power management at the end of the day when you're no prep, right? The guy with the most money and the baddest rig and the baddest car typically isn't winning the race, you know? Like somebody who's got the most time and data and, you know, not, you know.
Testing.
Yeah.
That's what wins races, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But that's what got me excited. I mean, I like the challenge. I like obstacle courses. I have a good time. I like wheelies. You know, he'll be like, hold on. I'm like, what? He's like, just hold on.
And if we were going to grudge race somebody, we would never tell her how much. I'm going to just get in the car, do your thing. Like, so she would just sit in the car. Like, it'd be 100 degrees outside, windows up, just sitting in the car doing it. So we would put her in it to drive it. I've only gone down that track, I think, one time in Isam's Vet or something. Like, we've made so many hits in her car and that. We used to roll in like on a Thursday night, 10 o'clock, make a lick, get our data, and like head out to H-Town next day, like in and out of there 30 minutes.
I'm going to tell you about my first wheelie that Brandon introduced me to. So we were at Irwindale, very small lanes. Like if you move or shift, you're going to hit the wall. It's very, very narrow. And I was getting my license passes, and I did one pass, and I went, 570?
Yeah.
Went 570. I was like, you know what? This is really boring. Can you like turn it up? So he ends
No,
up.
it had 18-pound wastegate springs in it, right? So, and I didn't know about boost control back then. I figured like you needed all the boost. So we used to judge it on how many bangs and pops it made before we let off the trans brake. that was like a
Yes.
real
That's
thing.
that's what we did on the foot brake with my car.
I was like,
I told Wendy, I said the third pop, let it go.
Yeah, see? Okay.
She would do it every time.
I didn't know about CO2 boost control, and I was like, oh, 18 pounds is what I want to make.
Every pop had a
Yes.
pretty
Yes.
ideal set of boosts. You're like
Yes.
5, 7,
Yes.
13.
Yes.
Okay.
You better let off by
So
the
I
third.
told him it
If
was
you let off at the
boring,
fourth,
right? This guy ends up putting like a W tire on it, and he's like, "Okay, I'm gonna show you right now. You want more? I'll give you more." I ended up dragging the back bumper instantly. It just went poof.
Camber caster plates
Dude.
bent, oil pan smashed. And those moments like those, you're like, why'd I drive it back to the pits? Fucking pickup slammed in the oil pan. You look at the oil pressure gauge,
I
like,
got
yep.
out. I got out. I pulled over. It wasn't leaking. I drove it back. I didn't
Yeah.
look at the oil pressure though. So yeah, my bad.
So yeah, leave on the third pop and it'll make some boost.
But that
you
was
seen
my
that-
first wheelie. Oh yeah, just instantaneous. But from that day on, I think he never stopped giving me wheelies.
We used to joke about the LS9 car being like a wheelie car, like, oh, we built it for it. It was like funny at the time. And then like
It
that's
really ended
all
up
that
being
car
wheelie
did.
car.
And like I knew how to fix it, but like you wanted to give it that right amount. And there's laptop wheelies, number one, were my fault, where you're either hitting it not hard enough or, and that car always did wheelies, and we just never got the weight over the front like it needed to be. It was boring when you strapped it down. It just went like
Yeah.
it's 60 foot at 117. Like it was quick.
Even on a wheelie?
No. I mean, if it did
Well,
back tire
rear tire,
wheelie, it'd be in
120.
1.2 something. But it's 60 footed, not at Yellow Belly, but we did radio race it, and it went 117.60, 5.50 stock LS9 car. I don't know how many actual LS like ZR1 LS9s have. Like, I'm sure now today people are starting to reach it to
I
get
think
there.
he said they go 1-1s.
Yeah,
Yeah. I was in
But-
no one cared about that car
112
because it was
or
in a Mustang. It didn't matter. Like if it wasn't in a ZR1, it didn't matter. So
What's
like,
the weight on one of those cars?
Same
though?
weight, like about 3,300 pounds.
3,300? Yeah, but we were able to leave on a trans brake.
Well,
you
that's
know.
that's decently heavy though, because
Yeah, it
these
wasn't
guys
light.
with
Full
these
interior.
pulled down ZR1s, they're
Steel
whether they want to
cage.
admit it or not, they're 2,900 pounds.
Yeah. There was a Power Glide one riding around for a little bit in the no prep world. Like he hit everything. It was all Power Glide ZR1. That thing was pretty quick. I don't know what it ran, but it was
Was it white?
white one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And he was super sneaky. And we kind of linked up at the track, and he was like,
That's Steven from New
Yes.
Orleans.
yeah. So he was
Yeah.
quiet at first, and then like when we popped our hood, he was like, oh shit. And he's like, all right, come over here. And like he showed us what he had. It was a cool.
Yeah.
It was he was.
Aw, little connection.
He's a cool dude.
Just through the LS9, like I didn't like that
You
car.
have
If
an
I was
LS9? I have an LS9.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's exactly how it was. Oh, we're best friends. Yeah, no.
like I would put that car back together today, and it would still be competitive. And
Where did that car go?
We raffled it.
So I shot the rod out. I sold majority of all the parts. I probably accumulated like 35,000 from the parts and put it into the new build.
You were sad to see it go, but you
Oh,
figured
yeah.
you could cry in that.
You know, I think me and that car had a connection.
It had been through so many spicy, like that car should have.
Situations.
That car had 9 lives. Like it should have rolled.
Yeah, me and that car literally had a
Yeah.
connection. I'm kind of sad that I got rid of it, but you can't keep everything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It
Says
just
who?
was. It was like
I'm not
yeah.
keeping everything, okay?
The rear end
she
was
needed
getting like
some
it just.
love.
It needed upgrades, and the money I would have put into it, I could have bought this roller. Like what it would have took to make that car safe. It had a steel cage in it. Would have had to get cut out to like a real funny car cage. We paid 27 grand for that car as a roller. The paint job alone was half that. Came with AFCOs all around, the whole rear end, all that. So the moment came where it just made more sense to do it. Fast forward now, it's too damn pretty. Like it's that's the bad part about a car like that. That's a lot of work. The other car, it could have sat in the trailer for 3 months, popped out, went and did a whole no prep race, enter 5 different classes, put it back in the trailer, and pulled it back out with no problems. This one,
are
you're
you
taking
gonna
apart.
PPF it?
It's like
It's so
$7 grand, dude.
expensive.
I know,
It
but
is a pretty car,
Every
though.
The moment I
PPF
do
don't
it,
matter.
I'm going to kiss the wall.
Yeah, it's gonna whack a wall one day, and then it'll be
I spent a bunch of money having my RX-7 painted similar to the Sonic Blue.
yeah.
First day I have it parked out by the shop, a garbage truck backs into the fender.
Yeah.
That's what would happen to
Then
me.
I do a custom paint job on my blue RX, my blue CTSV, and spent, I don't even want to talk about how much money I spent on the paint.
Yeah, no.
Painted that car, made it all nice. I'm at Maryland, 7/8 wrench, walking by, dropped it on the fender.
Yeah. Yeah.
So C7, wrapped it. I've already messed up the whole side.
Yeah, see?
Rewrapped it.
Yeah.
If it was didn't come with such
Did
a
those
pretty
cones
paint
mess
job,
it
I
up?
would have done it.
Do those cones mess it
There are
up?
5 cone marks on it. Yes. Yeah. Wendy's like, it was 7. I said, it's 5. I can count them down the car.
Oh my goodness gracious.
So we'll have to scratch that one a little bit, but we're just not.
Just
It's a
PP it.
no prep car. Like
Just
we
PP
built
it
it for no
yourself.
prep, but
It's not that hard.
I know I'd probably Amazon or
I would do that.
YouTube it or
do
something
that.
and see. It's because
Yeah.
you're lashing valves and all that shit, so you're over the fenders all the
PPF
time.
just
yeah.
the spots you need. Don't ruin it. Because one day you're going to get rid of it. And I'm going to come get it.
For the right price, it's for sale right now. Anything's for sale.
Hey.
So,
Anything.
not to, since this is all current,
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
there's
sorry.
a lot I want to touch on from your history.
You got a lot of editing to do, bro. We're all over the fucking place.
Yeah. So
We have a lot of history.
the aftermarket ECU stuff, I knew you were big on that. But you had an SS because he likes SSs, so let's talk
Oh
about
shit!
that.
Yeah, we totally forgot to skip over that.
You're always asking about SSs.
When we opened the shop, we had to have a shop car, right?
And this is year 2014, 16?
2016 is when we opened the shop.
In California?
In California. I didn't even know what a Chevy SS was at the time.
It's a G8.
I didn't even. G8s weren't even cool.
I was
back-
at the dealer. I was walking by. It was on the showroom floor. It was blue, and I looked at the window sticker, and it said V8. And I called him. I'm like, dude, this 4-door has a V8. I was like,
just like we had no like.
everybody. There was like a shop that did Corvettes, right? Then there was a shop that did trucks. I was like, let's do a Chevy SS. No one's doing Chevy SSs. And I was like, let's get the biggest cam. It was Brian Tooley cam. Let's get one of
It
the
was
biggest
like a BTR
cams.
Stage 4 or
Let's
something
get a
back then. Like
FTI converter, nitrous, big manifold. I'm just gonna put all this stuff and you make it work.
Yeah.
yeah, West Coast cylinder head, like just. But it was cool. Like when you pulled up to a gas station in that car. Like, like
Yeah.
it was, no one expected it. You met a whole crowd of people that you didn't even know existed. But I learned
Nitrous, to
how I
put nitrous
started.
on it.
That was my first venture into trying to tune something myself. So if you look at like how I go into a car today, I open it up, like I have 2 files. Like that car I had like 95 revisions because I was every single change I'd make. All right, math change and this change and like I had to learn everything.
Got
and
folders on every car we've
yeah,
had.
like huge things of it. And we that was the first car I put E85 on. Like I remember putting E85 on it. It made like 430 wheel, you know, but we raced the shit out of it. Converter car, went to Irwindale, and that was kind of what we started our shop with. We had the big old accelerated thing on it.
They use HP tuners.
HP tuners, yeah.
So that was your first venture into HP was in
Period.
2016, right?
Yeah, I
Yes.
might have like messed around with it because I had an F body. Like,
Nitrous F body.
Right out of high school, I had a nitrous F body, but that was with EFI Live. And that was back LS1 Tech. Like, I'm going to go
Yeah.
back a little bit more and we'll come back. But that car we would spray with no tune change. 150 shot, put MS109 in it.
You spray it through the mass air.
Yeah, the SOP lid on it.
It was a manual car.
It didn't even have headers, bro. It was manifolds with cutouts.
We
like-
were little grudge racers. Our buddy had the same exact colored car,
With an
same mods, but
automatic.
in auto. So we would switch them.
We switched the car. That was the
It was the LS version.
LS version. And
2001.
I
Did you have a
remember-
friend with the LT where he'd pull the brake booster so it would cam?
Oh, no, I didn't.
On the
I
LT
didn't
ones,
know.
if you pull the brake booster off, it would sound like a cam.
Just go
He had a
go
V6
lean
bike.
and
We thought that was the
shit.
coolest thing ever. We pull up to the parking lot with the brake booster off. No brakes anymore, obviously. But it sounded like it had a cam, so it was cool.
She still, and we laugh to this day when she sits in a car, she still sits sideways.
From that F
From the
body.
fucking catalytic converter little thing on the F bodies. You ever
I will
seen
do
Yeah,
that to the day
Seriously?
I die.
But that car, like, it was 04 when I had bought it, so it was right after high school. My buddy worked at a dealer. He's like, hey, look at this thing we got in. He was like doing burnouts in it, just used car salesman guy. We went and bought it. It was like 19 grand. We sprayed that thing. Like, yeah, no tune, nothing.
Damn.
Knocked Ringland out of that one. No clue what I was doing. I didn't even, I think EFI Live, we were able to get in there and like, I probably had no clue what to do with it back then. And we played with it back then. It was probably the first time. And then, we're skipping cars, man. I had a 05 GTO.
04.
The slow one. So 06 was the 60.
They were all
04.
slow.
You had
04 was the 5.7.
LS1.
Come at me if you want to. They were
So
all
I put a
slow.
converter in
Thank
that
you.
one.
Heavy.
Yeah.
Huh?
It was heavy.
Yeah, they were heavy. I mean, they were super comfy.
Yes,
Yeah.
They
very
looked
nice
pretty
interior.
cool, but they didn't hook. And it was like
We
the
won burnout
equivalent to a
contest.
Supra, but
Yeah.
without being
we
as
won
cool.
burnout
That was
contest
the
with
first car. My dad was co-signed on it, and they used to, when pictures existed, you know, when you actually had a physical picture that wasn't on your phone. They would take pictures.
I remember that.
I remember
I'm old,
pictures.
too.
Yeah. And I had a big old burnout in it picture. I was like, oh, I'm proud of this thing. And I was like living at home at the time and I put it away. My dad found it. Is this what you do with the cars you co-signed with? I was like, oh shit. After that, he never signed on a loan again. But yeah, we did burnout contests in that one. So I had a couple LS cars before, but the Chevy SS is like, I needed to learn how to tune on it. And that was the one that we went and I learned HP tuners. I did tuning school. So, I mean, I'd gone to UTI, to get into the BMW stuff, and then tuning school.
You did this regular UTI course?
Yeah, I did regular UTI course.
Do you like it?
You can't knock it.
I learned how to sleep in like all different positions, like because you were just like you were getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning and then going to work like all night at Sears at the time. And
I went to UTI in Houston.
We just fucked off. We were a bunch of kids that would go race during lunchtime, and I still talk to all these people today. But
Called the UTI 500.
When
everybody
go to
would
lunch
take out, yeah.
See, same shit then.
Yeah.
And then like
now, was that in Cali?
Cali.
Okay.
And then the hot rod class, I finally paid attention, and we're out there jacking around on the dyno. And
So hot rod and super street were the only classes I got B's in.
No shit.
It's
I
okay.
got, like,
I
who would've
failed my
thought
first
for what I do
driving
for a living
license
now?
when I was young, so
How'd you do in the electrical course?
I got what got me into the BMW world. I was like top of my class, straight A's and everything. I hated school, bro. I got D's through high school. Like I remember putting a 2.0 GPA on my mom's refrigerator. Like after I made like my first $100,000 working for BMW, I'm like, proud of me now. Like who cares? You told me to do homework. I didn't need none of this shit. So I got horrible in regular high school. In UTI, top of my class, did good. I picked Porsche to go to Porsche. They would pay for all your school. And then all my friends were going to BMW. So I was like, that sounds cool.
Yeah.
So I ended up picking BMW, but like the same core group of friends just all dicked around in the hot rod class together. We raced each other. One of them had like a GTI Volkswagen. I had my 5.0 Mustang, but I put Cobra badges on it. So like,
back when I went there, everybody failed the electrical course, at least one of the two.
Those teachers were assholes.
And
I
I got
didn't mean
perfect in both, and I was like, man, I kind of feel like a nerd. but then I feel like there's a lot of people that go to that school and they're like, oh, I didn't learn anything. I'm like, well, then you didn't try.
Yeah, I think 90% of them, like parents made them pick something. Like I didn't know what I wanted to do after
That's
high
what I did.
school. But I wanted to go there. I saw the commercial. Like we all know the commercial that played 10 o'clock at night. You're like, that sounds cool. I could go do this.
and he did really good.
I did good, and
I was 16, thought, I'll show them. I'll
Yeah.
go live on my own.
it didn't work.
So 2 weeks after living in my car, I decided, I'll go somewhere. But I mean, I went there with knowledge of how to change oil, and I built a rotary motor when I was like 13.
I was always a car person I went into UTI already at like a car.
He did Jiffy Lube.
Yeah, I worked at Jiffy
Jiffy
Lube.
Lube.
I went
changed
in
oil.
without really any major knowledge, but I mean, the stuff that I learned there, I mean, I think I still use a lot of it today.
Bro, we graduated BMW. Imagine being 18 years old making like $100,000 a year.
I did.
I mean, back then was nice.
Back then in like 20...
I made 92 my second year at GM.
2009, 2008,
2000.
You did
9 or
2007.
10.
Yeah, we were just a bunch of kids screwing off, like just...
I mean, we blew every penny of it.
Yeah, all the Vegas trips, it was a blast.
Yeah, I was like, oh my God, what do I do with $20-something $100 a week?
Use it all.
By Monday, I'm like, man, I got $50 left. Gotta make it through the week.
We would build cars and race them on Thursday.
So that's what got the structure. Some of UTI was pretty structured. Like you had to be clean cut. I got into BMW. The guy used to keep a razor blade, like a shaving razor. If you were not clean cut, you went into the bathroom and
They made us
shaved
go
your
home.
face. Yeah, it's the same thing. So I think maybe some of my structure in this today
The
may have
dealership
come
did that
from
too,
that.
yeah.
Like we had $1 million clinker tile. Like the flooring in BMW's $1 million floor. Like I remember the owner telling us how expensive it was. Gorgeous floor. Like so, I think a little of that kind of went into later on down the road. But
I don't
I
got no
ventured
$1 million
into
floor,
working for
but-
Mercedes, and the dealer that I went to go look at, they had like a room that was next to the bay with a TV and a waiting area. So the customer would wait there while you worked on their car.
Oh, yeah, no.
And I was like, no, we're not going to do that.
yeah.
But they set me up with GM, which was kind of cool because I had lived in Slidell and I went to school in Houston, right? And I was going to move back to Slidell anyways. But when I talked to the guys at GM and signed with them, they paid me a bunch of money to move back to Slidell to work at a dealer there.
All right.
But I think that brings a lot of structure. But a lot of
Yeah,
people
you learned how to
a lot of people
diagnose
don't
stuff.
realize how much that school really helps.
No, it did
think.
good. And then like you had to learn how to diagnose problems, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like these are today they're pretty quick. Like we're not diagnosing stuff here as much as far like sometimes someone tried to do their own job and I got to figure it out.
Yeah.
But like a lot of the diagnosis stuff came from back then, like learning how to like they used to bug cars. Like they would stick things in there and
They
make you go
cut the
find
fuse.
the problem.
Did they cut the fuse on you?
They used to put resistors. It was even worse. Like you could find like a
man.
power and ground problem. You stick a resistor and you make something read weird.
Yeah.
And CAN bus. I learned about CAN bus
Yep.
stuff back then, and yeah.
And that was big because when I got to the dealer, nobody knew how to do that.
Yeah.
And when I started doing Corvette specific, the Corvettes with the fuse box in the floor always had communication issues, and people don't know how to read CAN bus. Still today, most people don't know it. But I think the other thing that was kind of cool is I worked 2 jobs. Right, because who didn't? Trying to pay for that.
Not today.
Expensive
People
school.
don't,
But what I was getting at is when I worked, the first job I went was a local mechanic shop. And I offered to work there for free.
Yep.
And they were like, what do you mean? I'm like, I just want to learn.
Yep.
You can't find that nowadays.
Bro, this was the most exciting phone call I got was an oil change shop wanting to hire me.
Yeah.
I remember being like, wait, I just dropped off. They want to hire? I washed windows there. I would have swept shop to do that stuff. I mean, imagine the performance world if I would have been allowed to do that back
But
then.
nowadays, you've got stuff like this. The shops I've had, 2 weeks is about the longest somebody would normally last before you start seeing they just get lazy. But if somebody had a shop like this back there, dude, I'd have done some dirty things to be able to work in there. You know what I'm saying? But like nowadays, you can't pay people. You know,
No, it's a
the
little
shop that I had in
different.
Houston, I offered like $60 an hour.
I have to
Dude,
bribe this guy.
I will give you $60 an hour to come here and do the work as long as you do everything 100%. Couldn't get anybody to do it. But
probably-
back then, I'd do whatever just to work there. And then I would leave there and go work at Papacito's as a server so I could actually make money.
Bro, I delivered pizzas. I worked at a car. I think I
And
worked at a
Sears?
car wash and Sears all at the same time.
And
3
UTA.
jobs, bro. And I was like, I remember my first paycheck was like $7.25 an hour. Like, just to
geez.
get all that together, just to get through school. It was after school. Like, school started at 5 a.m. We got out like at noon. Like, we were dating at the time. I'd go sleep at her house for about
a
an
nap.
hour, take a nap, and then go work more. Like,
I would
this stuff
double
didn't
phase.
come from like
Double
easy.
phase, then go to
Yes,
the mechanic
yes,
shop,
yes.
and then which just means you just go through the whole day. You just do,
Yeah.
but do that. Hit the mechanic shop, hit Papacito's, get out at like midnight, sleep for a few hours, back to school at 7.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you can't find people doing that at all anymore,
I did that
this-
for 2 years.
huh?
I did that for 2 years too.
But you're old too,
Well,
like
see,
us.
with
So
the
that's why.
aviation stuff, like that shit's dangerous too. Like I truly feel like these cars, like today's world, 1,000 horsepower is expected, right?
Yep.
You know, that what
Which is
comes with
crazy.
1,000 horsepower is dangerous, right? You know, the
We
aviation,
get 18-year-old kids that just expect that. You know,
the internet said I can make it. Yeah, I can make 1,000. Have you ever driven a car with 1,000
That's
horsepower?
the thing that caught me off guard in Houston when like the last year or two, the amount of 18 and 19-year-old kids that came to get their built C7 Z06 tuned, and they're making 900 horsepower. And I'm like, I'm going to
we
hand
come
this
from like
to
the
him.
500 horsepower. dude.
Right. Like,
500 was
I remember
like,
500 was it.
you're like,
500
here,
was
sign this waiver.
Whatever the
fast.
03, 04 Cobra made back in 03, 04 with whatever generation Whipple got stuck on that thing, not even on E85, whatever the boost
The
gauge
Kenny
max,
bells.
the Kenny
The Kenny
bells
bells.
with
We're
the
next to
booster
Kenny
pump,
Yep.
whatever the freaking boost gauge maxed out on, that would like make you have blurred vision. Like I remember feeling it. Like the guy used to have to, he floor it and then he let off the gas to grab the shifter. Like it was,
Yeah.
that's another non. I won't
Yeah, they had a
forget that
local
one.
guy by us when we were coming up. He had a Sonic Blue Cobra, and he beat everybody. And then I took my Integra. I took it and had it tuned in by Jason, what's his name? Stupid Fast in Houston.
Yeah.
So drove it to Houston, had it tuned, drove it back, and as I'm coming in New Orleans, I seen the Cobra, and I'm like, oh, this is it. We're gonna get him. We go to race and we're going and he's pulling on me, and then all of a sudden the car just starts getting it, and I'm like, oh shit, we're passing him, and then I let off and I'm like, oh, that's a lot of smoke.
Oh man.
Wastegate line came off,
All the boosts.
but it won that race. I wasn't even mad. I was like, that's fine. I beat him. But that was like crazy to us. I think that car made 300 something horsepower maybe, and that I think the Cobra made 600, which was really a
Stupid
lot back then.
Yeah.
now it's like, oh, you don't make 1,000? What do you do with
Yeah.
that?
Yep.
Poor kids.
Do you think the internet's changed that mentality?
Yeah, so when I could speak on LS1 Tech was like, that was kind of a local forum, right, where people would talk. Facebook was another one that would cause it, but today's scene, man.
What about
and
MySpace?
I mean, you put your song on
I
there,
don't
like.
think he had MySpace.
Oh, you had both. You had MySpace.
I had a MySpace.
Yeah, see, both of you guys.
Yeah.
He didn't. He still doesn't even have a Facebook.
Nah, Instagram gets you enough trouble here, but the
Internet clout.
the internet clout, and I've seen this, like, yes, it creates a forum to communicate. I mean, it gets your name out there and stuff, but someone had said this before, it like changed the whole industry on that, as far as like taking a loss is so publicized where you're afraid to take a loss, right? Because it's all over the place. You could have the baddest built whatever C7 Camaro with all the nice parts, everything, and get beat by a stock car if someone gives someone up at the tree or you spin. But on the internet, no, it's this car. You don't do shit. You know, it's just
I got
it's
one
changed it
better.
all.
It's a
What
dud.
I went to that quiet event, and my first pass, I got beat by an Ioniq 5.
It could happen, right? It's just not
In my
your day.
C7.
Yeah.
He got out so hard by the time I had the boost way too soft.
Yeah.
And by the time it started coming in, it was too late. And I'm like, boy, that one hurt.
Yeah, I don't think like
But I don't care. I'll post the loss. I don't. Because
Yeah,
then
it
I
did-
can just come back and fix it.
it didn't ruin. It just changed it. It's a different landscape on how
No, it
things.
changed it in the fact that people make things a reality and it's not. Like they say, this is what I have, and they're like totally lying about it. They're just doing it for clout, right? So then I got
Yeah, that's
people.
a whole nother. Yeah,
I got
That's a whole
people-
nother issue.
Well,
Yeah.
this guy beat me, and he only has it. Like, you really believe that's what he's
I
got?
mean, that's
And,
also
you
in
know.
grudge racing too, but
Yeah.
it's gotten really bad in that
It's
aspect.
killed the Houston scene completely. Because
The group chats, right? That's where, you know, a lot. That's just as much as social media. It might as well be like private, but it's not. You know, it's just people don't want to take a loss. So when you do take a loss, it's going to be all over the place. So you got to be prepared for that. But I don't like in racing. Sometimes it's your day. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes you're going to win against the guy who has a bunch more, and you know, it could go either way.
I think everybody's just worried about their status kind of deal.
Yeah, they don't
which
want to be known as getting beat by whatever
the people,
it may
the
be.
people like us, like, I don't want to lose, but I know you never have the fastest car. It's just not a thing.
Win humbly, lose humbly. You know, I've learned to do both. I've taken some really good wins. I've taken some losses. Like, it's just part of the game. And
I think
it's
the
not
younger
gonna change.
generation, though, I don't think they can handle that.
No, they
because
don't
I
want
remember, when I was in Houston back in, what was it? Well, I'm trying not to date myself here. This was 2014, I think.
Damn.
This is when shut up. This is when I had a buddy, had a CTSV, and I'd never messed with one. Well, I did. I did one in Slidell. It was a stick shift car, a guy named BJ. First guy to let me mess with one. We made 800 back then, and I didn't realize that was really good back then. That car was, and what we did that with fuel system was sketchy. But, so when I go to Houston and I'm like, I'm going to move back, because after school I had left. I had a buddy with an upper pulley E85 and injector CTSV, and they would have meets 2-3 times a week. And that's where I met Aldo Welds and a good friend of mine, Alexander. They were top dogs out there. And that upper only car, we'd go out there and I'd beat them. And they're like, what the hell is this? And they're like, oh, you're lying. I'm like, it's not even my car. I was like, look, this is what it is. And that's what really kind of pushes in the V's. But they would take that loss and they'd be like, okay, I'm coming back to tear him up. And then we put it on E8, you know, we didn't have on E85 yet. Then we put E85 on it and we beat him again. And they're like, what the hell?
If it wasn't for the losses, like, you wouldn't come back and get more stuff done to your car, right? So, like, you gotta.
But that helped grow the scene.
Yeah.
But nowadays, people don't realize that that's what helps grow it.
Yeah.
Because they want to talk so bad on everybody about it. And
There's like a line of disrespect and a line of banter, right? There's some other racers I've seen have the banter that's funny. Like, there's a line of funny and a line of, it's a little too far. But there could be still some fun to it, you know? It makes people want to modify their cars and do more to it and beat the guy. Like, Irwindale was like that. If you took a loss, you know, then you would keep going, come back the next week trying to do something faster. And
do you know, do the tracks seem to have the same issue? So my experience obviously is mostly with the roll racing stuff, and it's mostly died out because everybody's scared to lose. But do you see the same thing at the tracks?
Yeah.
People are scared to race each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I don't like, even back then, it's like everybody wants that for sure win, right? They'll lock it in whether they know somebody's car's new and untested and they're blood in the water, man. They're going to go for that. They're going to go for the kill there and then not run it back later, you know, something like that. But people just don't want to take the loss. They'll wait and cherry pick their races. But I don't think that's ever changed. Like, it's always been, you know, no one just shows up like, I'll race everything. Like, you got to go through a stipulation book of like, you got to fill out, I swear, like some of the racing today, in whether it be track or like, there's like a application you got to put in first and, you know, make sure you're qualified and does it have this, this, and this.
I
Like,
usually try to find at least something that's similar.
Yeah.
So like I like going out sometimes when they have like the Tuesday night meet, but with my car, it's kind of like, I don't want to go out and puppy kick because whether some people might think that's fun, that's not fun for me. But I try to at least have a good matchup. Yeah. And
But what
a lot
if
of
it's
people
like a completely different type of vehicle, but you run similar times? You know, why does it have to be a similar type of vehicle? That's what gets me. Like, why?
I don't know.
Why,
That's a good point.
if an F-150, let's say it runs
we don't race
550. Let's
F-150s,
just
okay?
say it runs
we leave those
550s.
Why?
because nothing hurts worse than get beat by an F-150.
Okay, let's say it runs
What motor
550s,
does it have in
right?
it?
I don't know. I don't do Ford.
So like now we're gonna go off the deep end on some of this stuff, but like if you talk about sits the same, right? And I'm gonna bring up your favorite
Oh, here we
transmission
go.
right here. Whether it be
I think the Overdrive Racing,
Okay.
Overdrive class brought back a lot of racing and brought back a lot of competition.
what gear are those overdrive transmissions leaving in? Are they using overdrive down the track? As long as they're using overdrive down the track, right? Like it's going into overdrive as
Do
it's
you
going down
use
the track.
Overdrive in your 3-speeds?
No, it's called
Okay.
lockup. We use lockup.
We do
Same
too.
shit. No, but if you think about it, like if someone were to stip overdrive, right? Because I'm a big proponent of Turbo 400. I like it. If you stip overdrive into it, that 8 or 10 speed is likely leaving.
This conversation was supposed to happen later
We could,
in
let's
case
get
somebody
back.
gets hurt feelings, but that's okay. We'll go for this. We'll go for this.
Go.
But what gear?
The gearing is the big difference. The 400 has a lot more control and adjustability.
Customization. But what
You can
gear?
do different
What
gear ratios. You can do different slip ratios. You can do a lockup, which is just the ultimate kill mode on a 400 if you want to spend 50 grand. Yeah.
So
So
what gear are you leaving in a 10 or 8 speed?
I don't know if I wanna
go
tell
fast?
you.
See,
it depends.
not first. Either.
In the 6Ls we do.
I'm not talking about those. Those
That's the overdrive.
Those
Eight or
guys never
10.
stip stuff. It's the new stuff that stip
On the 8-speed, we do leave in first sometimes.
sometimes.
Yeah, there's a guy in
He can name one
Canada.
person.
There's one
One
guy.
guy.
No, I was just saying.
one guy.
Yeah, he leaves it first. He does great. He runs in the 8s with it, you know. Yes, we
Well,
leave
we're
in
trying-
second.
yes.
But that's because
Yeah.
there's so many freaking gears.
Oh, see? All right.
That's not the argument.
Which one's going to be more consistent over a long, let's say 3 years of racing? Which one's going to be more
Those
consistent?
You don't-
400s don't last 3 years.
We never took mine out.
This one's never been taken out.
How many
ever.
times to go to the track?
A lot.
These overdrive cars
We've
make
broken
multiple
everything
passes.
but a transmission in this car.
Yeah, the 400's more consistent.
Okay, damn. How many points
Which
is
one's
that?
cheaper
For
to
now.
rebuild?
Which one's cheaper
one's-
to
For now.
buy? Just to buy.
$800 for a 10-speed. A proper 400. This
Plus
is a,
all your
this is a-
clutches
no,
and all
hold
that
tight, hold
stuff.
tight. This is a big argument that a lot of people don't understand. They think, well, I'm gonna find this 400 for $600, and I'm gonna slap that in there. No, you're not.
I mean, they can.
Even
but
a decent turbo 400 is $6-7 grand for just a.
No, I think
Not
it's-
even.
I think FTIs are like level 5.5 is like 5,500
And that's
or
it.
something.
That's it. Yep.
No converter, like
What kind of power
No
does that
lockup.
hold?
No lockup.
no, that's just like 50 grand to
Yeah,
do it like a
lockup's like
proper
50 grand.
lockup with a
Yeah.
converter and like 50,000.
I don't even have that.
I think Mark Mickey sells them for two prices. 19,000 and 27,000 no converter, and you could have like $30,000 converters. Like that's a whole nother. We don't even got that on that car.
That's out of our league.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that
But-
shit sounds like a manual transmission going down the track.
But what kind of
Yeah.
power can you put through a $5,500 turbo 400?
1,800.
18. I had it. I had
2,000?
Like, yeah.
All right, I
just
feel like I'm starting to lose this argument.
Yeah. No, you can't. Like it doesn't.
I think that 400 kills the car.
Why?
They came
100%.
stock
Because
in
you're not going
cars,
to
you
drive
could-
that around.
But they drove them in the 60s. What year did the Turbo 400 come out? Come on, you know all this knowledge.
You're
What year?
not going to take a 400 and drive that daily. I don't give a shit.
I've
what
heard
you
of
are.
people
I
driving
don't
them
give
from
a
here to
shit who you are.
Houston.
You're not going to do it.
I mean, I did in my
That's the
69
same thing.
Camaro,
I go
but-
back to the guys that are like, it's a street car.
No, I don't-
Look at me driving
I
down the
don't wanna
street.
get
I'm
to the
like,
street
the fact
car
that
combo.
you filmed that
Yeah.
tells me it's not a street
We're not.
car.
Are we talking about like driving on the street? Or are we talking about racing?
We're talking about build a car that you want to do everything. So here's a good argument. I'm gonna go back to Wendy's car. It can 1/8 mile, 1/4 mile, 1/2 mile, standing mile, and drive to the grocery store and everything efficiently.
But will a
400
5.0 car
cannot do
beat
that.
it? Will a 5.0 car beat it?
Yeah, but it's a lot lighter.
A what?
No,
car?
a car that runs 5.0.
Go 5.0.
But it's a lot lighter. Her car's 4,600 pounds.
But you could put a
and run
4,600 pound
540s. So yeah, pull 2,000 pounds out of it. What's it gonna run?
How much does it
With the
cost to
same
rebuild
trans.
a 10-speed or an 8-speed?
A 10-speed, $800 for the clutches.
I know
Well, if
you.
you're doing your own
I
stuff.
don't want to. How much? You
How
said-
much
You
is-
said,
For the
how much does it cost
average
you to build it?
For an average consumer.
How much is the shop
$850.
charging
Yeah, retail.
retail to
average
rebuild the
consumer.
10 speed?
I think Midnight's like $3,500.
Okay, it's a couple $100 to rebuild a Turbo 400.
I think Turbo 400 is like $300. Like FTI would do it
Just for cost, just
They
for
would
cost.
charge you $300.
Clutches, like whatever they're.
They would
just
charge you $300 to rebuild it.
Yep.
I don't know the exact number.
refresh.
Refresh.
Like if it
with
needed
good-
refresh.
like
I've
I
never
get it.
broke a
and
Turbo
clutches.
400. I actually don't
What
know.
deters me is you buy a new modern car and you take some junk from the 50s and you throw that in and you've ruined your new modern car.
did
And
it-
let's keep in mind,
But if that-
hold on, I have a CTSV with a Turbo 400. We don't drive it. It goes to the track.
The word ruin is
you don't drive it.
relative
It's
here.
ruin.
But
The
these
word
people don't
ruin.
drive their cars. They just want to race it.
Right.
guess
So
you
at that point, why would you buy a modern car and do that?
'Cause
Why
you
wouldn't
like
you
the
just buy
car.
a Fox body or a ship
That's
box?
why I
Because you
got
don't
a
want to get a
Mustang.
Fox. And there's a whole nother argument there with Fox body race car and like new late model stuff, right? So I guess the argument can be made either way, right? If someone wants to daily drive their car, yeah, I'm probably not going to pick a Turbo 400. But a lot of these guys come, they want to take it to the track all the time. Dan's car, this black car. They want to race it consistently.
That's it.
At the track. That's all they want to do. The cars get towed here, they go home. That's the pick for me.
I
for
think
that
that's the
situation.
difference, and that's where we kind
That
of
would
differ.
probably be where the
is
line would
your
be.
background is race car
Yeah.
stuff. My background's always been street car stuff.
Yeah.
So, but my car, I race and I beat it consistently. We drive it 1,000 miles there with her and the baby in the car,
Yes.
with the tires and the jack in the back. We swap them.
And you're able to rebuild it.
Runs
so it's-
mid eights, and we drive it back home.
No, there's
That's where it
And
kind of differs.
we do that. I mean, we have builds
there
with
could
10
be
speeds and 8 speeds.
in either way, but
Well, I know y'all do that. I was
Yeah.
just saying you wouldn't want to do that with a 400 car, and that's the only thing that keeps me
I
from
just
it.
pick something that's repeatable. I mean, number one, it starts with, hey, customer X, I want to do this, right? Like that's the request. And if they're like, I want to drive it to Houston every day, I'm not going to do it. But for what we get a lot in our scene, and what we do is like, at least the drag race cars is like, I want something that's just going to continue to take the abuse. Like
and if they
will
keep it in the
go-
garage, they got to have a special floor for all the fluid it leaks.
Turbo 400, that is a prime example. Brand new leaks. Like it
They
just
all leak.
is part of it.
Everyone.
It's sweat and horsepower.
Yes,
Some of them have seen that leak,
that's
but it
what
doesn't happen.
Eminem said.
And sweat
They
and
said you
horsepower.
got to drain the little can in the front. I'm like, why? He goes, it's horsepower sweat. It's like you just drain it, and I was like, what do I do? He goes, toss it out, toss it back in. We don't care. I'm like, okay. I mean, it works.
Oh, you think when
But-
you get into the higher price point of performance parts, it just it doesn't
But
change.
I've gotten really close to swapping her car because the 10-speed wasn't a thing.
Yeah.
But the 6-speed, it's a lot of work. You know, for her, she got the record. She held it for like 3 years. Then I got it. I only held it for a few weeks because Matt went and got it from me. But the point was, it took so much to get there. It made sense for us to go to a 400, but then she drives that car so much. I didn't want to ruin it. In my mind, ruin it.
But it's a
but
lot-
if that car was only a race car, which is
That's
the black
it.
one we have, it makes about 1,800. It's a race car. It's still full interior, obviously, but it's
I
got
mean,
a
that
400 that
one's
sits
full
in the
interior?
garage. It leaks on the floor.
A lot of people, let's say, will talk shit on the 400, right? But then they'll stip it out of their races. Like it's got to be over. Okay, you're talking shit
That's me.
on the Turbo 400, but you're afraid of it. You thought your 8-speed was just as good. Don't be afraid to race a Turbo 400 car. So that does
I think
happen.
the 8-speed's close.
Yeah.
I think the 10-speed will change that.
Yeah.
I think the 10-speed with the trans brake, because that's the other big thing is the trans brake.
Yeah.
And I know they have
Well,
a
we
trans
don't
brake on the
even want it.
8-speed,
Like,
but
I
that
don't-
thing's already its own grenade.
Yeah.
So I don't feel like pushing that any
Most
further.
of the cars, like this car, like we won 260 pretty easily on the foot brake. Now the trans brake foot brake argument, some classes only allow foot brake. Like a lot of daily driver classes are no trans brake. You go decent on the foot brake. Sometimes you get a PD blower you put up on a trans brake, it's gonna make 24 pounds of boost at 3,500.
Well, so with the 10-speed stuff, we put things like 11.5 to 1 rod and piston LT1 and a ZL1 with a ported blower, and that car second pass out went 550, full weight, full everything, and it cut a 12660, I think.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, the gearing's aggressive.
the 10-speed, I think, is going to be where I think the overdrive game is not going to be as, I don't know.
Subpar.
I'm not saying
We've
that.
seen so many of those transmissions implode on like burnouts and
That's
everything.
8-speed.
Yeah, I've seen that. But
But
a lot
and
of
10
times
do
speeds
that.
too, and ZL
where
ones.
I've seen it.
10 speeds?
Yes.
Not a lot, but I've
On
seen
the dyno?
I've seen one on the, and there's always some backstory to some of it. I remember one that I'd let go, but I've seen the 8-speeds, like people who let them upshift in the burnouts, like go like I don't know how the Hellcats
what
aren't
happens on the
blowing them up, but-
8-speed is they're in second
Yeah.
and they're going, right? And they lift and it goes to make the shift and they hit it again.
right back in it.
And there's a basket in there. It's a stamped steel basket with little weight reduction triangles.
That's right, you told me
And
about
it
that.
twists.
How the hell the
And when it
Hellcats
twists, it
going
has to go
through
somewhere.
like 9 gears? When they do, you ever hear a Hellcat go through a burnout? I swear
Yeah.
they go all the way into
That
overdrive.
transmission's significantly better.
Oh, that's crazy.
The Hellcat transmission, the tunability, which is crazy because most of the tuners don't even tune them.
Yeah.
But the tunability of that transmission is phenomenal.
That is a standard car you hear shift through every gear in a burnout.
That's
like
the
it's
same
just
transmission that's
180
in the
mile an hour burnout.
Similar transmission that's in the
eighth gear.
Supra.
So we've seen some pretty extensive fires.
Yeah, I've watched a C7 in the burnout, like catch fire.
I've seen a
in
lot of
California.
8-speeds explode, so I
Yeah.
won't argue
Transfluid
that.
gets hot, hits it.
And-
When you're putting a customer into something, the last thing you want to see is that, you know?
Yeah.
It's just like it's one thing for yourself, but like you see that and you're like, ugh.
I think I've done so many of them now that it's like just, it's very repeatable. But I got to have the customer coming that wants that goal, right?
Yeah.
Like, that wants to do it.
What?
So.
For those watching, he does build transmissions.
Not anymore. I live in Puerto
Never
Rico,
mind.
man.
Oh, yeah.
He's like, no, no, no.
His hands look way too clean.
I'm tuning
man.
on the beach from now on. But that I guess that's why I kind of like transmissions, because we build them and we like the
Makes sense.
I like the
Yeah.
challenge. The 6-speed everybody thought was junk. Everybody wrote off the 6L. Circle D pretty much wrote off the 6L. Wendy went 850 on a stock one. And the next event, David from Circle D came up to me and was like, "Hey man, do you want to work together on these?" I'm like, "Well, the power glide clutch won't live. I'm not interested." So we just keep doing stock clutches and we get about 20 passes and we change them. And he's like, "I think I figured it out." So it kind of gave me an end to really push on that. So that might be, I might be a little biased. The 8-speed, from what I was told, they're going to be replacing, they're trying to make a fix for that drum. But the 10-speed, I think, is going to be where it's at. I think it's going to be the only thing that competes. But, I mean, if you take a ZL1 with a stock blower and a 400, how fast does that car really go without outing anybody?
On a 10-speed or Turbo 400?
Turbo
On a
400.
Turbo 400.
I've only done like 416, 2650.
All right,
that
how
car
fast
goes
are they?
530. That pretty repeatable 530 in that car.
And what's it weigh?
4200.
Does it?
Yeah,
They have a weight.
We have it weigh 4200 for Texas 2K.
Okay.
So that car, 530.
You don't think it could have did that with the
830.
8-speed?
I don't like not repeatable like we do with that. I don't know. It just he came to me. It had an 8-speed in it at the time when we had built that car, but
Maybe like once.
yeah, I think. But it's just that's the original transmission I put in that car like 3 years ago.
I think it's just the
3 years ago.
clientele then.
Yeah,
That's
they
really what
want
it
it.
is.
Like you get in the car, you put it in gear, you floor it. You're not thinking about anything.
Plus,
it just
now
does
your customer base does a lot of Motec.
Yeah,
a lot of
so I
stuff like
do.
that,
There's
so-
in here right now. Like there's 6 cars in here right now that are on Motec. Like it just
So at a 400 makes a lot of sense on a Motec.
yeah, it's just tell it to shift. It shifts. It does its job. That's all there is to it, and it works.
They don't want to do anything. They just want to hold the steering wheel and that's it.
That blows my mind too. Sometimes they're like it didn't shift. Like well, yeah, like the Motec will trigger, but as a racer, sometimes you got to be ready to pull the handle back if you forgot to turn on your CO2 or something. But they're just repeatable. You tell it to do the job, it's going to do the job.
Y'all do
know?
dump valves and all that on them?
I've never had one that made power like that. This one will probably add it to the black car because he's going twin turbo. The white one I know has twin dump valves on it. But like nothing like in the blower stuff, I haven't really had to loosen a converter. Like they seem to
so
be
that's a
pretty
whole
good.
other reason though to go 400, right?
What?
Having the power, the management.
The power management and the custom gear sets, right? You could basically gear set, depending on what kind of power range you're going to hit the transmission with, you get a really nice long first gear to where you could just pour the power at it. If you put a stock 248 first gear, that Turbo 400 may not be as effective. You know, it's just too aggressive of a gear set. So you're changing to all different types of gear sets, depending on what you're trying to do with rear end gear ratio, transmission gear ratio. It's not just a Turbo 400. That's entry level. A 248 first will get you by and get you into the eights pretty easy, but you want to start going pretty quick. You got to start changing gear ratios in that first gear ratio. Same like Power Glide. You buy a Power Glide at 180 first gear, that's going to be good up into that, you know, mid 5 second mark. You start getting down into the fours, you're going to want that longer first gear, like a 156, 164, stuff like that.
Now you see why we stip you out?
Why?
Do you think they've gotten like more stips as Grudge Racing?
I swear, it's an application that you want to race. It's like everything. It used to be like, hey, we sit the same, let's race. I think it is. Like, but if the transmissions are really that fair, why is OD like?
I don't think it's fair until the 10-speed gets a little more finalized.
Streetcar Takeover took Turbo 400 out of heavyweight, so Streetcar Takeover X'd it.
Right, because when they had it, we didn't want to attend.
Okay,
because
is that what
you take a CTSV with a 6-speed, and then you stick a 400 in it because you can't make the 6-speed work. Okay, now the car is significantly faster because we also remember that the 6-speed only has a 1.15. So Wendy's car, we had to run a 30-inch tire and spin it to 7,400 just to make it out the back.
What is
because
like
the car's
the
trapped
fast
at 165
Hellcats
plus.
are 8-speed?
Yeah,
Dude, those would fit in that class, and they're all staying.
but they big tire.
Yeah, they could run. Those are like that 30-inch tall tire deal. Yeah, I saw that one outstip it. So maybe coming forward, I don't know if Texas 2K
And then if you
will
think
follow.
about it again, as I said before, how many Hellcats do you see that are actually winning that don't say Bailey's on it?
They're always out
Tuned
there.
by Z, yeah. Z-Tunes.
Well, I think Z
Because he
tunes them,
tunes
right?
for Bailey.
Yeah. That platform's come a hell of a long way too. They're fast.
I think for what they have and the amount of blower size and stuff
Yeah.
like that, it's crazy to not see more out there doing it. But I think in the Grudge game, I think there's a lot more
But look at
that people don't that are that fast that we don't know about just because they're a Grudge car.
Yeah, and that's why the Mustang versus all this stuff, like the GM is like the slowest platform, right? In general, speaking, compared to all those, what the Hellcats are doing, what the Mustangs are doing.
The what? Don't be scared.
The 5.0s.
We can't stick a on 3 kit, you know, on our LTs to go that fast, but they have their own class. They're in street car or an actual. They kind of got a class of their own. So we got to play in the heavyweight class with any one of these cars, 4,000 pounds.
So I think where the Mustang has its unique advantage with the what motor does it come with?
I don't know.
Is the RPM, because you know RPM is king. Yeah. The RPM mixed with a 10-speed, mixed with a car that you can make light, real light. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of just like the trucks.
Takes power.
But there's no reason we can't spin the LTs up there. I think people are just kind of scared. They'll spin 84.
Yeah.
And they'll make power up there.
HP Tuners gives you 8192.
Yeah, but then it shuts the whole car off. So
the highest you could go in our computer is 8192. I swear a Ford probably goes 10. You know, they'll let them go to 10, but 8192, that's all we get.
But I think that's where they have their advantage. But I think the 10-speed stuff is going to really kind of even that out. It's just if people could figure out the tuning and stop blowing them up.
How do you think the Grudge scene's changed, though, from when you were in it till now?
It was actual, like, I mean, I've seen the late model Grudge scene right now, I say, is pretty alive. Late model Hellcats, ZL1, I swear, is like the
NA Camaro game. Other than being stupid toxic.
Yeah, but
that's a big deal.
How fast are those? What's like a badass NA car going right now?
850s, 860s?
Yeah, so 550, 560. Yeah, tin can. gutted, no
It's
dash.
NA.
Yeah, I know. Respectable, fast.
Nitro?
Nitro, the fuel, exotic fuels and stuff and all that.
I had a
Like,
stock bottom end go 890 on just the 85.
is it still alive today?
Yeah. Yeah, actually.
Usually
Well, it
the
never
people
blew
that
You
are
said it went one time.
Yeah, I was like, usually the people bragging about it, they
it never
pop
blew
up, disappear. But the late model, like the late model grudge scene, like Yellow Belly especially, is pretty cracking right now. Like it's alive. It's generating a crowd and it's getting people to want to build these cars. And I am seeing more ZL1s pop up there, and like there's definitely a good group of them. It's all.
But what I'm asking is, like, has it changed from when you were doing it back in the day?
When we
to-
did it back in the day, it was like, I have a problem with you. You get all your friends together and you get as much money as you can. And we're gonna go solve it. It was not like it was different because it wasn't really at the tracks. It was in Compton, but
It wasn't posted online.
It wasn't posted online. Like there was nowhere for it to be online. You actually had to pick up the phone and call somebody. Like it was before. You made a post with someone's car. Like I didn't start seeing the cars upside down until I moved in Texas, right? So I was like the first time I see someone post with the car upside down, and
It's disrespectful.
it's like disrespect or calling somebody out. Your car ain't shit is what it is. So it's changed in that, where it used to be pick up the phone and it was just a couple buddies. Like you didn't like, now they like advertise it, right? It's like a flyer for Sunday, and then they this lock-in thing where they'll lock in.
Time.
What do you think about that?
a
Like,
lock-
send lock-in.
Oh,
the
no.
dumbest thing.
Don't
Okay,
even
so
get
Hold
me
on.
there.
What do you think about, like, when send lock-in money or?
So it does stop somebody from just
Clout.
clout. It stops somebody from clout chasing, right? It's making you put
Money
a
on
punk
it.
out money on it. But I've watched some sly
But
shit.
they use it to buy the race out.
Okay, but I've watched some sly shit, and this is in the late model game, and I've seen it in actual small tire grudge racing. They stip like a time, like in the lanes by 8. Bro, none of us are off work by 8 and over there by 8 and at 8:01, you know.
They're like, "Pay me."
They're like, pay me. And I'm like, come on, like that's a little, and I've watched that at XRP. I've seen it other places. So the lock-in money, and it just stops you from
Like you
punking
don't want to
out.
race at that point, right? You're
No,
just
this is
trying
getting
to.
too technical,
They pay me punk out.
I
They
think
pay
the
me
thing that
punk
kills
out.
that is, like I said, is when they try to buy out the race.
Yeah, like
They're
Sunday.
like, oh, you know what? It's got to be 10,000.
Yeah.
I'm like, bro, I don't even have
yeah.
$10,000.
Sunday they're talking, we're going to go to XRP Sunday, and someone's like, oh, do you want us to find your race? I was like, no, I'll get there and I'll talk to people. So maybe
find my own race.
that's a little generational difference in there, where they have to be able to
post it.
swing in that group chat and like,
But they
I
make a
want to
living.
call this guy
a lot
out.
of these guys are making a living off of this. That's why. These
Yeah.
promoters are taking a piece of the pot.
Yeah. The
promoters, yes.
They're making literally.
That's how they get people to races, right?
Yeah.
You know, with the lock-ins.
Some of it's a business, like actual,
Yeah.
even in the small tire, like Rose did it for a long time. Like that car was pretty deadly. They had a Malibu, like, was it Malibu?
Nitrous G-body.
A nitrous G-body. And man, they were out just, like there's some good
that-
money to be
that,
made in
We're
that
going
game.
Grudge Race of the Year.
Yeah, Grudge Race
the
of the year.
Trans Am, the black one. What's his name? It's probably one of the most gangster no prep cars I've seen. He goes to every event and wins everything.
Firehawk?
No,
Oh, you're talking about Ryan Mitchell.
is it?
Oh
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
that
Firebird.
guy. I mean, that's a business. But there's
That's
That's
a,
a
that's
business.
a
Pick
business.
somebody
That dude is
who's
making
probably like,
That's a
money.
business.
I would consider one of the baddest dudes out there in that no prep scene. He's not online, like he's just show up, come for the purse. But that's shootout racing,
Not
you know,
grudge
versus
racing.
a grudge. Like I don't think that's like a grudge car, right? They just show up and they take
Yeah,
the
I
purse
think he
home.
They're
just
doing
shows up
events.
and beats
Yeah,
everybody.
like here they just want to talk a bunch of shit in a group chat, and then the memes were new. Like that's changed, right? Like the memes
in
were
New Orleans, they would if you lost the race, then the next day they got like the dudes from Africa carrying
Yes.
you.
And the
Oh,
Yes,
casket.
yeah.
That
Mike
meme and-
Pina did that to somebody, I forgot. But yes, that's changed. Like if you lose a race today, it's going to be all over the internet Monday morning, and
that's
it's
what
probably
kinda
going to
started
live all the way
killing
through
it.
the weekend. So that's changed. There's a lot of that's different.
It's not even remotely the same.
I think the first grudge race I ever saw was online, and it was Izzy Performance with a all-wheel drive truck. I don't remember the whole deal, but he shows up with this all-wheel drive truck, and I guess that was the SS game, and this was, I'm definitely dated now. But, I mean, that thing was crazy. It left on the street, and I watched the video. I'm like, what the hell was that? And it was a bunch of people talking shit, and
Yeah.
he went out there, just handled it, and took
Yeah.
the money, and went
in
home. I was like, man, that was kind of
3-4
cool.
in the morning out in Compton. And
So
it's
in
like,
Cali, there was grudge races, right? You just have 2 people racing. That's it. Here on the street, you don't do grudge racing. You do shootouts.
yeah, like you don't really see that here. Like it's not like one-on-one. It's like everybody put in $200, $300, $400, $500, whatever it may be, and you race for a pot. And you split in the finals, whatever it is. So that's a little different. Like the grudge scene here is like just, you know, I got a problem with you.
We know very minimal, I'd say, amount of grudge racers that just grudge race. They don't run any classes, right? They don't run classes. Actual grudge racers typically, you know, only grudge race. They don't do shootouts.
The yellow belly late model crowd right now, it's grudge crowd. Like everybody is racing just grudge races. It's the same group of people racing each other. But they're definitely that's alive. That's a grudge crowd right now.
What about like the grudge car? You think like the ticket for a grudge car is a Fox body?
Yeah, but you're going to scare everybody away, right?
Okay.
So yes, is it the ticket? Is it why does everybody have
most
them?
affordable.
If you can't beat them, join them, right? Like it's a very easy platform that's got all the right parts that could get super light. That car probably weighs 1,000 pounds heavier compared to some of the Fox bodies out there that are just not that particular car.
Right.
Just how we didn't get that serious about cutting weight on that car, but that's the easiest car. But no one's going to allow a Fox body. Like you're not going to go pull up in a ZL1 against a Fox body. And if you are, there's a big power to weight gap. That guy don't need to make but 500 horsepower less than you when he's got that in there. So the Fox body would be the ticket, but you're going to scare everybody away. You know, today's world, the ZL1, like it's a perfect, like those cars have gotten really fast, you know, to grudge race them, and they're drawing a crowd.
C7s.
C7s, yeah, same
They're
thing.
lighter.
I know of a couple that are in the 4s.
Yeah.
And they're still 8-speed cars, and they don't look anything special,
Yep.
but I mean, 4 seconds in a full street car is
Yep.
And you're
crazy.
like guessing how fast the car is. No one really, everybody's like, oh, that looked like a 6.0 car. That one went a 580. Like, that's what really makes this scene fun is like, you don't know what that guy, you know, we hope we have enough. And then that we, you know, get beat or we beat and then we don't know. And then you're sharing it with your friend. Like, okay, well, it took this much to beat him. And it's cool. It's fun. The scene right now is pretty, it's pretty active. Late
Pretty
model
hot, yep.
grudge stuff. Yellow belly, XRP, we're kind of moving it to XRP this weekend, but Yellow belly seems to be where it's at. But the late model crowd at Yellow belly does not want to watch Fox bodies. So there's a big division in that, right? There's XRP racers and Yellow belly racers. They
It's
make
like 10-speed guys don't want to talk about Turbo 400.
yeah, they don't want
sorry,
to
speak up.
Yeah. So there's a division there where they don't like whether this be like XRP, like prim, proper, nice track versus Yellow belly, you know, a little different track, a little different vibe. So they don't want to go to either place. They're going to stick it at XRP. Now, XRP, you're gambling on you have enough car, right? I know it's going to have traction. I know I'm going to get down. I know I'm going to go X. Yellow belly, depending on the time of the day, it's sun's up, sun's down. You may miss your tune-up. You may be able to beat a faster car there. It's a little easier of a playing ground is why I think that scene's so alive there.
What state grudge races or street races the most?
I gotta say Texas, just because I feel like we're in the mecca of racing here because of how many tracks we have around us. So, I've never
go with Louisiana.
And I'd have to say that in the context that I've never gone. I've never really gone.
You never been to the pad?
No, that's on the bucket list. We would have taken her other car, if we didn't take it apart.
I'll hand them that. That is a full-fledged business.
Damn.
Every night.
Yeah.
Every night. They're out there with the flashlight.
But I've seen
doing
like
the prep.
1320 come out and do like 2 night, like 60 cars or however many cars we did. Like Texas is pretty active. And
Well, we're talking grudge.
Oh, that's right. That'd be a shootout. So yeah, you're correct.
Right, those are shootouts.
Grudge Cali.
But I mean,
Cali does. They were just out the other night race. Like Cali's got their grudge scene is grudge. Like
Yeah.
you watch all different. Like I've seen some SRT Jeeps out there, trucks. Like in Cali's got their grudge scene.
That's the closest I think I've seen is Cali to New Orleans. Because
Yeah.
in New Orleans, it's literally you go out there, they got their own little group on Facebook, and they'll set their races up,
Yeah.
and then you get the banner picture.
and
for
that's
being the
real
fast one of the
grudge.
night.
Like
Like, that is
one-on-one. Like,
legit.
the guy comes out for the money on that.
He doesn't
race.
have Facebook, so he doesn't see this
Yeah,
stuff.
There's a
shit.
guy there that you hand him the money before you do the race. Everything's understood. You line up, prep it, make your pass. He divvies it out. There's no argument. That's what happened.
Yeah.
And I think, because I've been to pretty much, I think every state now. Cali with their street scene, I think a lot of people don't realize how much racing there is in California. I didn't until I went.
There's something iconic about like 135th and Main, but I think they moved it all now to like a whole different area. But that was a pretty iconic street. I think
Really?
Limpy went there
Changed
to
a little
135th
bit.
and Main. Like
Nice.
I
was
think
just
the only
unknown.
thing we're kind of not really considering would be Oklahoma. because I think that they had a crazy grudge scene for a while. I don't know how it is now, but New York. Like, you don't
Philly.
think about it.
You
If
see
you've been to
Philly?
New York, they have like this I guess it's like an old airport. I know because I went out there to tune cars, but it's like an old airport that people go out and have fun on, but they'll do some serious races or they'll shut down a street. Like middle of the night, they'll just close the street off and they're grudge racing out
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, I
As
see
far
that
as grudge
online.
racing, compared Cali to Texas, Cali has more grudge racing.
Really?
Yeah.
The Grudge Racing, Yellow Belly's the mecca of that right now, I think. I do believe, like, Jake's Race is a bunch of locked-in grudge races. Like, there's a shit ton there. But on a weekly basis, like, I swear in this last 2-3, it's just really been, like, there's something going on. Every Thursday, somebody's racing somebody there, and it gets packed there. Like, the scene's alive here. But I think there's so much racing around. It's like, at least for me, I don't feel like, I need to travel to see racing, where there's so much around me. Like, there's you're not missing a night. Now, live streaming has changed racing.
They make that a business.
That is a new thing, not in a bad way, but I'm going to get lazy on a Thursday night. Like right now, if I need to see what's going on at XRP, guess what? Turn on the TV, you catch everybody at the track, all their passes are making. That's been a big change in, like, it's not getting me to go to the track on a Sunday night sometimes. So that's interesting. What's changed? There was no live stream. If you missed a Thursday night at Irwindale, guess what? You didn't get to see
Don't
it.
say those words.
I can't miss. You'll never miss a race here.
the downside of that
Everybody knows when you fuck up.
is, well, not that. Like, so in Mobile or Alabama, I think Steel. So we have an NA car that we were trying to dial it in and went out to Steel, looking around, there's nobody. Like, all right, cool. Let's put some power to this thing. Within him getting the ticket and getting back, there was a video online, and I'm like, where did that come from?
Yeah.
TikTok live.
It's sad.
That kind of hurts a little bit. It's
Yep.
a little hard to
Yep.
be able to test
Everybody
yourself without
can
everybody
see.
knowing.
Yeah, you can't test in private anymore. One of the private events happened at Motorplex, and I think they made sure no live streamers were there because it was like you pay for a private event to test in private. Like, so not that it changed it for better or worse. That has been a big change where it's just anything you do. I could jump on YouTube right now, go back on multiple pages, and find it. And if you do fuck up, they want the views or the likes on something bad happening. That's kind of,
Like that Dodge Caliber that launched in reverse that one year. Do you remember that?
that happens every
that
Thursday.
happens every Thursday and
Yellow Belly.
Sunday.
I remember that video
That's
forever.
common.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a weekly Yellow Belly. It's kind you laugh and you're like, oof. And that could be pretty bad. I shouldn't be laughing at
Especially
that.
with all
Like,
the people at the line.
some guy in a Mustang yesterday went like sideways and almost into the side. Yeah,
In
it
a
was bad.
burnout.
Then some of the races, people are standing at the 60 foot. I'm like, oh man, like that's not
Yeah.
It's cool because it's a bunch of people hanging out, but it's structured. So like they'll hang out at the line, but if anybody's past the line, they're not letting that race go. And they kind of watch for stuff like that. And I think the police kind of let it go because people make sure that they don't do dumb stuff. Then you randomly you'll get the pickup trucks that want to come out there and do donuts.
That's
but
kind of killed the scene though. Like you get
I blame y'all
associated with
100%.
the
That is a
takeover.
California.
no.
That's
Is it?
California
Like,
Did it
crap.
come from? Yeah, I mean, I've
I'm like,
seen
yes,
some
it
of the
came from
videos.
that.
You're like, yeah, it looks like,
is it?
yeah.
It 100% came from California. There's
California-
no
We were
way
already
that
here, so I
people here
can't-
were that stupid to
California
start that.
fell off my resume like after you've
A
been
year
here like
ago.
3-4 years. It falls off your resume. I don't even associate
No,
myself with that place anymore.
that's bankruptcy. That's 7 easy. That's 7 years easy.
I'm like embarrassed to say that, but yeah, it is like it. Yeah, that's definitely like if you're out doing something like that, you're definitely gonna get a bad rap in a car. But like leaving California with cars, like just everything was so tight there. Like you just drive around a car and it could be 100% legal with a muffler and you get state refed. Like the car scene was very, you weren't really driving cars anywhere there. You worried about getting pulled over. So you really didn't enjoy driving cars. Like you could literally drive a zoomy car.
You guys
around
were
if you wanted
spoiled
to.
here.
Did that
Yeah.
start the pressure from that? Did that start
it
while
just
you were still
wasn't
there?
So you got 50 states, and one of them was super, just
Well, because
really-
everything there causes cancer.
yeah, apparently I mean, every sticker
Only in
on everything.
California.
Yeah.
So we have the trailer, everything there.
So with the trailer, everything there, it wasn't fun to do, and like even if it was 100% legal carbo, and you still I've had cops pop hood on. It's like it was on a Challenger back then or something, and like carbo, they're still hassling you. The scene is not
You can't
as-
drive anything modified there.
Yeah,
so.
it's free. It could be too loud. Like out here, I've never even seen a problem with that.
Didn't you work and do a carb legal tune at some point?
So I worked with SEMA Garage, and we submitted our flex fuel tune at the time. I was going through the process when we wanted to stay in California, is where you could submit it through SEMA Garage. It gets approved, and you could have a CARBO tune. You got to pay for all the testing and all stuff. So we were going down that route, but I mean, we linked up with Maggie, and they had all CARBO, so it didn't, like, you still could work on add performance parts to cars there, but it was a little more
For
difficult.
people that don't know what the CARBO is,
It's
California
approved,
Air Resource Board?
It's approved to be driven in California. So, I mean, they lock these cars in a room, and they look at the emissions that it's emitting when the car's turned off and parked. And,
Are you serious?
Yeah, and it's tens of
You
thousands
can't even
of
have
dollars.
a catch can.
Yeah, a catch can would release vapors, right? That's not allowed. So, like, if someone were to, and I'm sure Magnuson had paid for that on their Whipple, all of them, is they had to pay to go through all the testing first on whatever, maybe a smog dyno, right? And then they would lock the car in a room, and then any of the emissions that were emitted from the car during however many hour period, it had to be below a certain level.
Wow.
So, like, fuel lines would have to be made out of a certain thing, like
so
everything.
you'd have to do like PTFE or something. Like that.
Yeah, and like the catch cans, like on a Magnuson CARBO setup, like it would only be able to be sold with their exact tune, with no other modifications to the car. So it's locked down to that, and then any of their crankcase ventilation has to stay circulated in the car. So
So if you got pulled over because of a muffler and they popped your hood and you had something aftermarket on it, they would check for these stickers.
if it's not there,
And if it's not there, they would
ref.
state ref you.
Yeah, it's like not going to crush your car or anything like that, but they could take it, right? It's legally being operated. But state ref was a big thing. A state ref basically is like it goes to an inspection center, and they go through the whole car and make sure the car is legal and meets all that.
So you see where it came from?
Yeah. So it was stressful. It just wasn't like, it's not as fun. And then the racing was so minimal there that, like,
You couldn't have a loud car even at the drag strip. So they would
yeah.
have certain sound decibels. You have to have a muffler on your car or else you couldn't race it.
yeah, like there was a decibel maximum at Irwindale, and still, I bet you it's still in effect today. If
that
you do not
where
have
the-
a muffler on your car, you can't race there.
That Laguna
Really?
Seca exhaust or whatever it was. Wasn't that a thing?
Yes, that's probably where. Yes,
Where the exhaust comes straight up the back.
to not
I
aim
think it
at
looks cool,
because it
but-
didn't aim at the decibel meter. So yeah, there's
Have you
just
seen that?
a lot of.
Nah, I haven't seen
You're gonna have to add a picture to that to this.
I'll look for it.
So
Laguna
they
Seca
instead of fixing the problem, they just aimed the exhaust the
Yeah.
other direction, so it didn't hit where it was a problem. But California, right, overpopulated. The racetrack's been there forever. They start building things around it, and
They're
people
doing
start
that
complaining.
everywhere.
Pomona was
Yeah.
one of the biggest, long-standing places, drag strips, and then it's just surrounded by houses. So they get like winter nationals and
that's it.
and one other thing, and that's all they get to race. So that racetrack.
But so that's
Yeah.
why California we feel is like not up to par as like how Texas is or even other states because how limited they are
Right.
with racing, right?
Yeah.
So
Or
how are
what
these,
modifications?
right? So how are these like other shops surviving out there?
I mean, people are killing it. You know, they're doing good. The ones that are there are doing really good at it. You know,
There's not very many.
There's not a lot of them, and the ones who have the market, you know, Alex.
But the one, I don't want to mention their name, but
yeah,
There's
Alex
I
has
don't want to put
good
no heat on him. But I mean,
operation,
he's
yeah.
doing really well out there.
Yep.
And
You have your clientele, and not that you can't do good. It's just more difficult, and you know. But you know the business, you know your clientele, then it can be done.
Yeah.
It was extra stress, and I had already I've been wanting to move to Texas since 2014. So all the
Yeah.
stars aligned, and it all made sense. I like everything about Texas. It's not just that. That was the straw that broke the camel's back, but everything else about Texas,
except for Austin,
I've never
'cause
been.
it's California.
You've
Yeah,
never
I've
been
heard.
there.
Yeah, I've heard.
All the
that-
people from Austin are like, "Shut up."
Yeah, I've heard that's mini California, but
Yeah.
Really get it for you.
They say it's just downtown, but let's be real.
But Texas has so many other
Calvo
things.
about that one.
I say Texas has so many things to offer outside of racing, but all we do is racing. So I
Yeah,
don't
it
like. I still have not been to a lake or none of that. Like, all we do is race. We race, we fix, and that's what we
That's
do.
what Puerto Rico is. It's beach and racing.
Yeah,
They're
so
like, what
that's
kind of
good.
racing? I'm like, dude, if there's a type of racing,
All.
it's there.
Water racing.
That like sand stuff. They're on the beach.
The
Doing
racing
300
is
feet.
so bad here. We foot race or dice or whatever else. If there is a
Gambling.
dry spot in the racing because of an oil down, don't think people aren't betting on something.
They have RC car drag
Bro, I've
strips
seen
there.
like full blown.
Like they Puerto Rico and Texas are real close, I think.
We're addicted. It's just in our blood.
Yeah.
The first time on the pod, we've actually had somebody that was prepared. Like somebody that was prepared, had notes, had topics.
Pictures, videos, descriptions,
So
organization.
we want to say thank you
You're welcome.
for being so organized. But you did mention that you shouldn't race shop cars. Why is that?
A shop owner's car, they don't care if it only makes one pass, right? So they could literally do anything to it to make it run that one time. While we mess with majority customers' cars, right? They don't want to blow up their car one time. Well,
Yeah, it's
shop owner's
hard.
car, they will
Yeah.
do anything it takes to win.
It's hard to like get it. Like that's to get a kid or adult kid, whatever, with a car to go compete against a shop owner's car. It's like, I don't think it's a fair playing field, right? Like every time we take out her Mustang, my Mustang, this car, like we're changing shit every time. See, the amount of time that's going into that car is extreme. And if I'm going to race somebody who's talking shit, like I'm going to do whatever it takes to make sure whether that's makes a pass or not, or, you know, like you're just going to take it to the extreme to make sure you prove a point.
Yeah.
So and that brought into thing, and this has happened throughout our entire time being a business, is like someone will post like ARS versus X. And that's like they're trying to pin the two shops together, but it was the customers going at it. And then it creates animosity between the shop owners that really don't have a problem with each other. But then everything gets riled up on both those sides. So like when we do race a shop car, like it would be my shop car against whatever shop it would be's shop car. If we're trying to settle that kind of beef, that's what would be the settling of it right there. Not my customer's car against the shop owner's car. To me, that's just never made sense. You know how much time are in those cars, whatever unlimited resources into the parts.
The shop owner has the means to fix whatever, right? They don't have to pay somebody to do something, while a customer will have to pay you to fix it. So there's just a little different aspect of a customer.
And you don't want to lose as a shop owner to a customer car, you know? So I guess there's more on the line for that. Like they're going to do whatever it takes to win that race.
Yeah.
But like I'm not afraid to race shop owner to shop owner's car. I'm not like, we do have a caliber of race car that I wouldn't even think twice about racing against a shop car. Like not a big
They
deal.
will try things that they've never tried before and do things that a customer wouldn't.
But some would argue some of the grudge racers do that too. Something I recently discovered was
Like
a lot of the guys in the grudge game, in a Camaro game, not going to name names, will shuffle a motor between cars, between
that's
races.
where the so I was getting at that with unlimited resources. You may race a stock blower car, but on race day, that car never pops hood. You know, some people have the stock blower and they do it, but then that car may pop up. I mean, we did that shit.
A lot of the
15
grudge guys
years
do
ago.
that, though.
Yeah,
That's
We
a
did
big
used to do
thing
that
in
a
there.
lot.
We
They'll
did
take
that.
one real badass motor,
Yeah.
and they'll swap it they'll lock in a race with the car, and then they swap the motor.
If we had the resources back then, like what a shop has, you could think you could switch with anything.
we used to watch people switch the whole damn car. There's 203 Cobras, Mystic Chrome, both same shit. One had a Kenny Bell, one had a stock blower. They would, on the way to the street race, switch things. Like they think that's like a new game. That shit was 15 years ago. I watched them go to the street. That car would change the corner and the other one would come through. It was super slick. So what they think they got going on, like they're outsmarting all of us. No, that shit existed forever ago. So, but yeah, you have the resources to do that. And you go to the track with whatever your combo is and it looks slow.
Just
And race
think
day
twice
comes. Yeah.
when you're going to race a shop owner's car. Just think twice.
Yeah, they could get it done. You know, if I wanted to not sleep tonight and put something together, I could, but it's just, that's why we have the type of car we have, you know.
What are you cooking in your head?
I don't know. I'm just trying to think of the topic to begin, because a lot of times I get, people are like, oh, well, I don't want to race you because, that's a shop car. But for me, it's not, because what shop? I'm just a tuner.
You are the
It's you,
shop.
but look how many hours.
But I'm just another guy just like they are.
What do you think we are?
How many
Y'all
hours
are
do you
special.
think?
Oh,
But take your own personal car. How much shit have you tried? Whether it be trying different fuels or
Yeah, but
different
my car's never
blowers.
like ready to go. Like I
Yeah,
literally
but-
am tuning it on the way there, and usually I don't even finish.
If I had my own personal car, like I would every day going to get coffee in the morning, I'd be making
But
changes. Like,
yeah.
oh shit, that worked, that didn't work, and So I think the amount of time that goes into it's a little different. And this is not a jab at any shop. It's just you have seen cars leave a certain shop, any shop, and let's say it runs this package. You really can't go buy that package and replicate that thing. You know, whatever that record setting, whatever it may be. It's just like the customer's cars typically don't perform as well as whatever that swing for the fences and absolute mineshaft air on a perfect day So I think that's a little different there. So I don't think it's like, I'm not going to sell somebody that combo there. It ain't going to work. Tiana's LS9, I would have never put the timing I did, the amount of boosts I did in Tiana's car if it was a customer ZR1. I would have never gone that ballsy on it. And then I found out, well, shit, the car takes that much timing and takes that kind of fuel. I could run that. So I actually experimented on her car, what I would never dare do that on a customer's car with their money in it. Like, I didn't care if I popped it. That was on me, you know? So we did, this goes back to we had an NA car in 2018. We did it with LME, big high compression 440, and we did it on our own car to learn what we could kind of push that platform to. And, you know, we did it with the 6th gen and learned it, you know, at our own car, like something that a normal person wouldn't have wanted to do.
Yeah, I mean, that's I'd say that's fair, because when it comes to like an important race, which I would say my recent one was the one, that MBK guy, the amp car. I wanted it. He had picked on one of my customers, and it was about a year before. And I was like, you know, I'm going to build a car just to beat that car. And it took me 10 months, and I would message him on Facebook. I'm like, this is what I ran 60 to 130. He's like, not enough. And I hit him up another month later. I'm like, this is what I ran. He goes, not enough. And then I finally got it into 3s, and he's like, you're getting there. And, you know, so I'll say that night I came
prepared.
I didn't care if it didn't make it back home.
Yeah, see, so you're going to go for that.
Just to win that race. And we did, and we shook hands and everything was good. But, you know, I've gone to races not prepared. But I guess if there's such a buildup, we'll definitely do something.
Typically, the shops that you follow, the fast cars is the shop owner's car. It's not customers' cars.
Sometimes, like I have some customers, I'd say of all the LTs I do, probably only 3 that I've really pushed to the point where, like, so where I'll put my car, I'll usually put somebody a little less, and people still are like, oh, well, his tunes are just aggressive. And I'm like, they're not aggressive. You just don't know what aggressive is. Mm-hmm. But I have a couple customers that they're like, I don't care if it blows 100%, do what you need to do. And I've pushed them past my comfort level.
And 90% of them don't really mean I don't care if it blows.
90%. But these 3 that I can think of, they wholeheartedly know that it's not going to live. And for some reason, I keep telling them. And then one of them, it's been 3 months, and he's like, well, it didn't blow up. And I'm like,
3 out of
thousands going to blow
customers.
up. I don't care if you don't believe me, it's going to.
And we thought,
that's how we learn.
You found new
limits.
comfort zones, right? You know what the car will take and stuff like that. And I have had some builds where I've been given the freedom, like, if it was your car, how would you do it? Very few people, you know, like, I get to kind of tailor it to what I would do. And I do spend the time at the track messing with it. So that kind of gets pushed to the limit, but not nearly if it was my car going there every week. It's like cars in general, like a car typically, anything fast is not going to leave the shop and just go do it first pass. Won't happen.
I know a lot of people think that, though.
And I don't, like, no matter what your buddy has online, it's not leaving the shop with one revision and doing it. I think it's very fair to say how badass of a tuner you are, whether it be any ECU management. It doesn't just leave the shop and it runs its best all the time. We're learning shit every time. Any fast car, every pass, we got the laptop open, whether it be radial prep, no prep, 60 to 130, whatever you're doing. Like, there's constant things to be learned. Like, okay, I could tighten that up there and that, you know?
That's my big argument with the whole dyno versus street tuning, remote tuning stuff.
Yeah.
A lot of people, they don't realize the amount of data that we have nowadays. Yeah. And coming from a GM and a dealer background, we're used to looking at data for your issue. Yeah. So remote tuning is just a push off of that. Yeah. But a lot of people are like, well, you know, it's not like being in the car. I'm like, but if you've got a guy that this is his skill set, this is his thing, like, I know this platform inside and out, and then you got a guy that's pretty good at it.
Data.
I don't care if he's in the car under the hood. He's not going to be able to do what you can do. But then you get a lot of guys it went on a dyno. Well, if you did it dyno only or street only, that street car is going to win almost every time.
Yeah, just going to the track, absolutely.
The realistic load.
It is.
But a lot of people think that you can go get it dyno tuned and then you go out racing and that's it. My
they
own
think
car,
the
I can
tune's
dial it on the
different.
dyno all day, and when I go back to the street, I'm still going to make revisions.
Yep.
So
It's constant. Like there's this, any of these 6 gens that we're taking to the track, there is not a time where I go to the track and not make a change. I could bump up the shift RPM. I could change the launch controller. I could change all the different boost control stuff. Like it's constant changes. Like now, if somebody was happy, like if this car was happy going 850, all he wanted to do was run
That's all he
850.
wanted to do.
I can make it go 850 every single time without fail, go down the track, but no one's ever happy with just that.
Yeah.
Now we want to keep pushing it, so we can keep getting better. We have that range where we know the car's safe when it's going to run right there, but when they want to go faster, then there's always
This car
something
was
to learn.
built to run 890, and
Yeah.
that's it. He wanted to run 890, and when it ran 830, we're
Yeah.
like,
830
"You good?"
now he wants to go 80. It's going to turn 80 is going to turn into 790, and
it's a constant evolving.
Yeah.
But I guess that's
process.
part of. I guess I'll agree with the shop owner thing only because, like, what we were doing with the C7 ZR1s when I started messing with those. I mean, the first one I ever did got the bolt-on record went like 950, and I was like, whoa, that was kind of crazy, and we thought that was super fast. Then we dropped the record to like 9.0, and I'm like, this is insane. And then I got my own C7 and got to actually really kind of push that motor because I have a good machine shop standing behind it. And I've done some crazy things. I
You
never
have the
really got into
resources.
mixed fuel stuff yet, but crazy
Yeah.
enough with timing and fueling and to where that same car that went 9.0, the next time we went out went 870
Yep.
and then
That's
went
the-
850.
the market here too, and it kind of is in on that. Like, you get talked down on if you go out and spin the tires, or you go out and not make that perfect pass right out of the gate with a brand new combo, right? Or like doesn't run phenomenally every time. Like there's an involvement in doing it. Like you do not just send it right down the track and go, all right, cool, it's done. Like
I think a lot of
you
that
gotta
comes
spend
from
some time.
when cars made 500 to 600 horsepower.
Yeah.
You could dyno tune it,
It's
and
done.
you were
Yeah,
pretty
yeah,
close.
yeah.
You were good.
And don't make enough power. You make 1,000, you're trying to get it down.
A lot of people, even in, people hate on the roll races. They're like, oh, you just stab it and go. And I'm like, I'll give you the keys to my car. If you have insurance, you go stab that car and tell me how that works out.
Yeah.
It's not just stab it and go. There's a lot of working it that comes into that.
Yep.
But I think that's really what's pushing it to where you really got to have a tuner that has that experience. And I mean, it's hard to argue that I don't know any shop in the country that goes to the track more than y'all do.
Yeah.
I mean,
Wears us out, but we like it. We like POP. And that got us, like, that's what we hear a lot. Like when we're at the track, people are saying it. It's hard. Like if I take a car like this out, and that's why we got into prep and versus no prep, or let's say 2 different styles of racing. You do not, people would tell me like, oh, we want to go out when you go out. I'm like, you don't want to be there when I have a car of this caliber out. That's pulling valve covers between rounds, going, like there's constant work, and heaven forbid something happen. We might be changing stators. Like it's Friday night, I'm changing a stator, and then I'm not giving you that attention. And that's where we kind of went different ways while we really got into the no prep, because everybody liked doing prep stuff. So when we go, like that's a full-time job for that whole weekend. So
We build a car, we want to see it perform, right?
Yeah.
We want to test things. We want to make it better. We want to see it perform, what it can do. The only way to do that is going to the track, and people like seeing things on a slip. Then they like being competitive, and it makes it fun for us. Like we could see things in action.
well, and that's something that I've actually heard. I've heard some people say they're like, oh, well, ARS did this car. And I don't think, it performed that well. I've heard that a couple times on certain cars. And I'm like, how long's that car been doing that? And they're like, well, it's like that car's been around 3 years.
Yeah.
there's always
Like,
someone faster. There's always somebody who's done it better,
right.
faster.
You can always push a car. There's always going to be that newer tuner and
Take
I'm
your
guilty
tune
of
and
it.
add 2 degrees in it. And
I'm guilty
send
of it
and-
back in the day when I first started. I'd say within my first 5 years, I'd push those cars to the limit. I mean, luckily we didn't have a lot of cars blowing up or anything, but we would to what I thought the limit was, because we didn't really know, because we never didn't have my own car to test it. But you'll always get those newer tuners that'll come out and toss a few more degrees than you would normally put in the car, and they'll go a hair faster, but they're going to do that 2 passes.
And I've watched that. Like, sadly, I've seen cars leave, find the grass is greener somewhere else, and I have seen them come back, and then you look at it and you
They
pull the
always come
file.
back.
There's 2 degrees in the file. Like, really, you took the whole thing at like. So yeah, there's people who would take that low hanging fruit and try to do it, but
But we're not stretching it to the limit with
Yeah.
99% of our customers' cars. They want a reliable. They don't want to rebuild it, and they just want to run a certain time. And people don't see that. They're not there to run a faster time every time they go out.
There's too many. Everybody critiquing, like, well, if I did it or if my shop did it, it's never like at the shop level. It's usually the people, well, I did this and they were able to get this. There's never two sides. Like, there's never all the facts in there. I don't think most of the time. It's just totally different.
So you've been in the racing scene for 20 years, right? Draggy was introduced, 2014, 2016?
Oh, I don't even know.
We probably got into like 2 years ago.
I was like,
what are your thoughts on that?
I probably learned more about a Draggy since I've been in Texas, let's say the last 4 years. Like, that's kind of when it really took off. Now, we rely on it in our drag race cars because we have when we H-Town, right? There's no scoreboard, so we use it. So we do rely on it in drag racing. So I can't really knock the roll racers. It's the same measuring stick, right? It's actually, what it did do is give a measuring stick that things that weren't measurable before. Right? Like, when I got into this, even let's say a decade ago, you got on the freeway, you either beat the guy or you didn't. It was simple as that. Now they're racing for this slip. So someone may say, well, my buddy goes 380 or whatever it may be. My car should go 380. So it does give a measuring stick on it. And someone may go do it in the middle of summer and wonder why their car's not there. And they're comparing it to somebody's Draggy that did it in the middle of a 40-degree day or whatever they may did it. Yeah. But it did put a measuring stick to things that weren't measurable. The drag racing, like, at first I didn't believe in them, and you're like, holy cow, like, that is pretty darn, like, within a tenth, maybe even 100th in some situations. So, yeah, I mean, it evolved it because people could compare something.
Right.
So
yeah, I like to use it because you can do a custom window. So, like, I'll do 55 to 85.
Yeah.
Because, 60 to 130, especially in a car that makes 400 horsepower. You know how long it takes to get to 130?
Yeah.
You'd be like,
well, it's nice to see the G meter. The G meter's cool, right? So if you could use that to tune. Customer takes a car out and they want to, like, you could increase, let's say, timing and see if you get mile an hour. Like, you're looking at if the G meter falls off, like, hey, what happened there? You spin or, so I don't think it brought any bad versus somebody trying to race for a number. It's almost as bad as going after racing for a time slip because somebody did it once before and now you're expecting to be that.
So something I think that it's helping that a lot of people may not have had the experience of. So we'll go back to like the V2s, right? So now I just let that info out. So if you dial those cars at like 11.8 air fuel, right, and put it on the dyno, you can lean it up to about 12.2 and it makes more power, 100%. But it's faster at 11.8.
It wants the fuel.
Because you're in the peak torque longer. It's a heavy car. And a lot of these guys, they'll dial them like 12.2 or whatever, and they don't understand why we're doing 11.8 because they put it on dyno and they're like, well, I put it on the dyno and then I leaned it out and look at what it makes. Yeah. But if you take that same Draggy and you measure about where you say 3,000 RPM in third, right? Locked up. And then after the shift point or at the shift point, and you set that window, so 55 to 85 or whatever it is.
Yeah.
You can make a pull and then you can change the air fuel and make a pull. And that's, I guess, the better way to do it than on a dyno because the dyno will show you more power.
Yeah.
But that doesn't always relate to the street.
It's a good tool if you know how to use it, right? It's just like a dyno. You could have a dyno and have no clue what you're doing. But if you know how to use it.
Chasing the numbers and racing the numbers is silly.
Yeah, so I think I don't think it went against anything. It just gave people more things to measure to and goals, right? So someone may, oh crap, I want to get to this. Like it if anything, it helped, It
hits the reality. You could run a 3.5, but then you could lose to a 3.8 because
if Draggy existed,
you don't know how to race.
If Draggy existed back when we it would have been pretty embarrassing. Like when we thought we were fast back then, like I'm sure if we look today, the hell was this? So I've put it in like my turbo car, like just for shits to see, but it got good footage. Like it gets you in trouble, the footage it provides, and there's.
Are you racing slips or you're racing to race?
Yeah, you're racing to beat the guy next year. You want to. I mean, some people that might be the whole goal in their building their car to run this number, to tell all their buddies they run this number, and if that's what fuels this industry, then more power to you.
I think that's where works. A lot of people are right now.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people aren't
60 to 130,
competitive.
Yep.
or the 100 to 150 for the cars
Yeah.
that are can't hook down there.
Yeah. I think it's a great tool. Like we own it for our no prep stuff, and we've used them, and it's worked, and it's been close, and the footage that we've got from racing is great. Wheelies, whatever, wheelie gaps, all the stuff we do. We've got some good footage from it, so it's good.
The other argument's the track versus street stuff.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, well, you do that at the track, so it's faster. I'm like, well, what if you dead hook on the street?
There's some streets out here that are just as good as some tracks. I know the California street hooks better than any track in California.
Really?
Yeah, there's a street.
My
there
fastest
is
time was on the street.
Yeah.
One time it was on a service road, and it just happened to have that groove concrete.
Yeah, it just
and
works.
When I hit it,
Yeah.
it stuck, and I'm like, oh, here we go.
Yeah.
So
That's
when I go to
right.
the track and it runs about that or a little slower, and I'm like,
Yep.
I don't know.
Sometimes it's too sticky.
That's true.
Sometimes you don't want to know you went 7-2 on a street, but like 7-2 may have got you past the first 3 rounds and you're into the semifinals because that road was that bad.
I remember I brought the Draggy to that LS Fest.
Yeah, that's
and
bad
after my
road.
first
That's,
pass,
So I
I
went
threw
750.
it back in the truck.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't want to see that.
I think even small tire
that hurts.
guys were high fives there. You get into the street class,
Well,
maybe
except for
in the
that one
mid
dude.
six. Oh yeah, that car wasn't even.
Yeah.
Not talk about that guy.
Well, they built the class for him this year.
Yeah,
So.
Yep.
we're not even playing with the same game in that guy, but yeah.
Well, it's a specific year, so he fits the class.
That's a sore subject.
I'm
every
like,
LS.
bro. That's the most sour I've ever been about a
Yeah.
race.
That's why I built a car that I don't care about the rules. I've
Yeah,
just built it
just
because
race.
I built it how I liked it and how I wanted it, not to fit a class.
Right.
We just want to have a car. Like our motivation to have a car is to have a cool car and have fun doing it. Like where our motivation, some people have motivation just to put money in the car. Some people will do anything it takes to beat the guy talking shit on them. Some people just, if all those reasons keep this industry alive and, grudge racing, people who are friends and group, like more tools we need to keep that going. I can't be against it.
Talk about when you got into LTs.
So you can't see it on camera, the white Camaro up here, the LT, this is a 2016, it had come out, and I think he wanted E85 or Flex. It had to have been like when the Flex Fuel sensor first came out, and the LT was new at the time, and I wanted nothing to do with it. I bitch cried, and like I just had I was.
It was a header job.
I started with LS3. So that's like where I started. So when you tell the throttle to stay open, it stayed open. When you told it to do things, it did it. And they didn't just take timing away. Like just things that I wasn't used to, I had to fight my way through that.
So he told me, he was like, I never want to work on another LT ever again. And I was like, guess what, babe? This is all we're going to be working on. So
Yeah.
you better get to like it.
And that was probably one of the first cammed LTs. It got to be in the early, like Comp Cams was doing their own cams back
Wow.
then. And that was one of the first ones that we did, and we got it to run. It picked up good power, and that car is however many years old now, 100-something thousand miles on it. He's been through a few builds, and
Ended up being his favorite platform.
yeah, it's like it's LS7 comparable, right? Like as far as the power you can make, it's not titanium intake valve and all the
Better.
cool shit and cubic inch, but it makes good power, relatively reliable, minus like DOD lifters and junk like that from the factory, but
Which LS had.
Yeah, I'm like, well,
yeah, so same shit. So like learning it was a big curve, and then when you added boost to it, that created a whole nother level of complication. And then you added a automatic transmission to a boosted car, and now you're actually having to worry about getting the thing to shift, and like there was some struggles with that. And then
Especially with port injection.
yeah, now you add port injection to it, and it doesn't, it's just, it adds layers of complications, and there's no like a book that says here's how you do it. Even the tuning school, I think.
I mean, there's a lot of books that say they think you do it.
Yeah, just all of us have our own ways of doing it, but like, yeah, you add a port injection ZL1 with the 10-speed, like, and now I've got it figured out and what we're doing with it, but it took time. There's a lot of late nights on the dyno where you're just, I have my network of people that we bounce ideas off of that were, we can be friends in this industry. Shocker, like we get along with each other, and the same things we all struggle with. Some people may have figured it out faster and got it done, but that's all like the number one thing that comes through here is LT. I'd probably say between the Camaro and the ZL1s. The ZL1s seem to be the hot market right now on cool cars.
Yeah, we can't tell.
It's kind of funny. It's kind of funny because the ZL1s are real hot up here, but in Houston it's all C7s.
Really?
Yeah.
Almost all. There's a few ZL1s, which there's a lot of people with the ZL1, the 1LEs, which get me if you want to. I think that's kind of silly to build as a
Have
track
you driven
car.
over a bump on one of those?
They're horrible.
Yeah,
They
knock your kidneys out.
Really?
They
Oh,
beat you
so bad.
senseless.
Yeah, they're like, if you rack one of these cars up, the shocks don't even come down.
The
They just
guy,
stay
Now
tucked
put
up.
them on the drag strip.
The guy
Yeah.
Nate, the Smurf ZL1.
Yeah.
He bought one as a rally car or for his road
man.
rallies.
They're
I
that
think,
tight.
I think
like, they're-
I think he made one rally trip with it.
Yeah, I would.
And
be
he's
not-
like,
yeah.
so I bought a C7 Z06. I'm like, what happened?
Yeah,
He's
that's-
like, man, that thing was beating me to death.
You can't. I mean, out here, Texas. I mean, we got some good roads, but then like up
some
here, it's
bad
all
roads.
back road. Like, it wouldn't be. If I picked a car like today, we don't like. Obviously, that's the car we have. If I picked something that I wanted to drive around, I would do a ZL1.
C7
Non-Z-
Stingray.
Yeah, definitely
We're
not a
not
base model
for-
Stingray. I don't know about that.
Budget.
We're not Corvette.
Yeah, I don't know.
Corvette.
Corvette. I
don't see
they're
him in a
cool
Corvette.
cars, but like I like them. Like
They work.
We like
and
to
they
work
don't,
on
and
them.
they don't sway.
They what?
true.
They don't,
They don't
sway.
Like,
Oh, yes.
they're like I really enjoy this platform. Like LT, they're like when you get an LS, you're thankful for how easy they are to work on compared to an LT. Now I would consider an LT pretty easy because I do so many
With
of
2
them.
IPSI, he's changed that whole market.
Yeah.
It's like, it's $2,500, dude. Just do it. Quit
Yeah,
playing.
just because you could, the methanol thing, like it gets a little, you don't have to rely on that so much. But like LTs are all silicone together, right? LSs, you had gaskets. Like GM was like, oh, they leak, so we're going to glue the whole motor together. Like, so it's a
Well,
little,
they made a crappier rear main seal.
yeah. So-
How they messed that up.
Yeah.
You got to go back, and then the center main bearing we talked about on another one.
Yeah.
So you had to go,
Yeah,
go
yeah.
back to that. But they're moving
Three-piece main
forward-ish.
bearing, yeah. So the LT stuff is it's really popular, at all different age groups, price points. Like we could do like a gnarly, 6-figure build or, something as simple as flex fuel. Like you buy the car and flex fuel, a whole new car to somebody and introduction of
Everybody's happy with the money they put into it, right?
Yeah, I
So
don't
you're
think
going to
there's-
spend $1,300, you're going to gain 45 horsepower. You can't do that in an LS unless it's boosted, but it's still more
yeah, it doesn't seem like
expensive,
a buyer's remorse. Like everybody,
Everybody's happy.
They like the cars. Like they're fun cars. Like when I don't drive like I drive a truck every day. So when you get to get in like a 1LE and take it through some nice
A
scenic
1LE
back
on a
road
road
stuff,
course
yeah, it's got to be.
that's an animal.
Yeah,
That's a monster. But with all the aero, building it as like a roll race car is pretty silly.
yeah.
Because it's everything that it shouldn't be for a roll race
Then
car.
you have like MPP exhaust. Like you could have this rowdy sounding car, especially even the C7. They're loud as shit. And boom, push a button, quiet, cruise it, take it out to dinner, go out to a car meet. Like they're really well-rounded cars.
Unless you have a wife that hates mufflers.
Oh, then
Goodness
you got the opposite
gracious.
problem.
I like.
I'm like, I want
I
it
like
quiet.
minus
She's
my
like,
race
cut
car.
it off.
Yeah.
So you prefer a Z01 versus a C7?
Yeah, I feel like I fit better in one just personally. Like I don't like when I'm in a C7, like it's just small, like versus one of those. But I had the ZL1 in 2014, and then I bought a 6th gen in
ZL1.
18, and then I bought
That's a whole different
17,
car, though.
But then I
17.
had a 17 ZL1 too, all white Camaros. Like so, I think I've always been in the Camaro market. So
Yeah.
just my
You
personal
look
choice.
sexy in a Camaro.
My choice would be that.
So you'd build a ZL1 over an SS? Cost consciously?
A Chevy SS?
No,
No.
like a SS Camaro.
Oh.
Like if I was going to build a shop car out of
Cost
one.
conscious.
No, I'd buy a V6. I'd turbo 400 it, 9-inch it, Swiss cheese it. No one would know what it
I was
is.
not trying to be that serious. Calm
No,
down.
if I was going to build
we
one,
did buy one,
I
actually.
bought a fire damaged 6th gen. And I had a whole game plan on it, like just to get into the grudge scene with a late model, because everybody will look at that car and be like, oh, you're not late model, or you're not little different caliber of car.
Yeah.
And then I caught myself wanting to go down that road, and I'm like, this is what I have this car for. And I'm gonna had a whole nother race car, but I would have done all the sneaky shit we did forever ago that we got away with. I would have done all that stuff on a car, and it would have looked stock as hell, and it'd been a good little grudge car. But to try to upkeep 2 race cars, it didn't make sense, so we ended up getting rid of it. But we thought about it for a minute, and we would have done. It was a nice fire damaged 6-cylinder Camaro. And ripped it all away. That cost conscious as hell. It was like $7,000.
Damn.
And you're good.
I think I guess I would look for like a customer if they were trying to do a build. Because a lot of people ask me why I did the Stingray.
Yeah.
I guess the Camaro is a little different because there's so much difference between the two. But on a C7, the difference is the motor and a basket in the trans and bodywork. So I guess that's why the Stingray was $40,000 cheaper.
C7 sounds better than the Camaros. ZL1, I think the C7 has the gnarliest sounding exhaust, factory exhaust, big cam.
They've always been like that.
They
just from the straightness of the
and
exhaust.
they're so loud to so quiet, like between the modes. Like I don't think the ZL, like I think that's a better sounding car, but then I'm splitting hairs at that point.
Yeah.
What about like comparing this car to like a GT500?
I don't know. I don't follow that market. Yeah, I don't. I wish I knew more about the market. Like I don't. Like I'd never followed it, right? Like when we first opened the shop, I was doing Ford, GM, Dodge, and you really couldn't dedicate your time to learning it all and doing it all. So we kind of went the path. So I never really, like, the Hellcat has so many different, like I don't even know what the Demon 170 is. It's just something I haven't followed. I'm like, they have another Hellcat, like they keep going bigger, bigger, bigger. The Mustang has had a bunch of different, like I know the Dark Horse was something that was new, and then the GT500 was a thing back in 05. They had one, right? The Super Snake or whatever. I just don't follow it, but I remember that there. Yeah. But I stem from like the 0304 Cobra, like that was the C7 Z06, you know, it was a C5 Z06 was about C5 Z06 and the 03 Cobra, like that was the two, those were the hot cars, and that one just always stuck with me as that was the, if you had one, I mean, that car was 40 grand back in 04. Damn. 38 grand, something like that.
We don't know
I don't know
about the new Mustangs.
I wouldn't be able to educatedly talk about it.
Yeah,
I would sound stupid.
What's up? I mean, people compare those now.
I know.
I have no idea.
I did this argument the other day, and people were like, "Oh, all these GT500s, they run threes so easily," and I'm like, "Where?" They're like, "Oh, well, they don't like to post it in the drag." Oh. Okay, so it didn't happen. Like, just say it doesn't happen.
It seems like most people stay brand specific, though, right? Like, I from what I noticed, at least the Mustang guys stay, you know.
I don't think it surpasses the V2 platform because I don't think GM's. I think that was pinnacle GM. The V2 platform. I don't think there's a single better cost per power, you know, car. Because you put like the ZL1 versus the V2, and the ZL1 had no chance.
Yeah.
It was I think a hair lighter, had the same platform, had Copo available suspension, and still got its ass waxed every time it was put up against the V.
It was pretty sad.
I don't know why. I talked about this on another one, but like the ZL1s could never compete with a V2.
I don't see too many V3s. I mean, same thing, right? You have V3 and ZL1, but
that's not a comparison for the V3.
Yeah.
I think they switched the ball up a little bit.
Yeah. Well, you ever the first time I racked a V3, I was like, Camaro. Like it's the same car. Like it wasn't. There was no
the ATS V is the same car.
We had a 6.
Like you could literally take the drivetrain out of this, and it bolts into an ATS.
It's crazy. Yeah.
The difference would be the wiring harness a little bit, but it bolts right in, and it's lighter than the motor that came in the ATS-V.
We did ATS-Vs for a bit.
Yeah, I tried that one a little bit, and the direct injected. I mean, that was pre-LT.
I've already went after them already.
Yeah.
They're too strange for me.
Yeah.
They are.
Yeah. I think the ATS community hates me pretty heavily here. I don't think we need to add to that fire.
They're like, ugh.
But I think, so when you started comparing LS to LT, like when I started comparing them first, I was like, LS is better, definitely. It took me a long time to get on Team LT, but then once I really saw the potential of it, it was.
I mean, that's our LT. Our LT4 is our 1,000 horsepower stock. Is very reasonable request these days. I want 1,000 horsepower stock bottom end car. And they live. Like, they're good.
What do you think is the max for a PD blower on an LT4?
Probably 2650 everything. So, like, I don't even, like, I would just stand. I haven't got a big, like, I've a handful of cars I've done, like, stock blower where we did the big ports on it.
Whatever PD blower you want.
I mean, I trust it to, like, 950. Like, you start getting plus 1,000, like, I'm thinking twice about it.
I figure 1,1200.
I mean, that's to each his own.
What a Pro Charger, about 14?
Yeah.
I've noticed the Pro Chargers seem to.
I've
done enough of them that made 14 that I'm like, this is weird that this is so normal.
I could send a car home Maggie.
Comfortably around 1,000.
About 1,000, and I know that's just going to be a really well-performing
We
car.
haven't gotten a call.
They're not going to call me next week and tell me there's that's just a solid car, you know. Minus that they could have had the bad roll of the dice and had a shitty main bearing in it, right?
Or
And
oil
something
pump.
Like oil pump. That was one. I've watched somebody explode one of those and catch it before the oil pressure
I
dropped.
think that's mostly the
Yeah.
wet sump cars, though, right?
Yeah.
I don't think I've seen that on a dry
Camaros,
sump.
2018s.
Yeah, so 1,000 horsepower, reasonable, solid car, and be mild-mannered, daily drivable, easy. You wouldn't even think
I
twice.
think they drive better than stock.
Yeah, people always ask like, well, if I have all this in E85 and I can't drive it anymore, I'm like, no, it's pretty
Well,
like
it's going to drive like stock,
as
maybe
long
even
as
better.
the cam grinds set with it, you know, proper to the build, and they drive good. Like we don't even we're not putting a bunch of converters in them. Like they're just simple cars.
On the 10-speed, do you stick to mostly stock converter, or
Yeah, I haven't seen a bunch of them come out that have done. We haven't done a bunch of work on 10-speed converter cars.
yeah,
We're waiting for aftermarket cases to come out and
Yeah, wait for something.
for the 10-speed?
for the converter.
Oh,
Circle D.
yeah, the Circle D doing them out of the stock cores right now, or no? Or they're doing
I
like
think
a,
they have. I think
okay.
they have their own.
When
so far.
I had first looked into it, they were all using the factory converters and just rebuilding the factory converter versus creating a full
well,
billet
that's because
ballooning.
there's two different ones.
Yeah.
There's the one that pushes this way and the one that pushes this way. So, and then one's conical. So
So that was
there's
like
a
the
lot
last
to it.
time we had looked into it. But you got boost and you put the blower, it's not, unless somebody is like some hardcore trying to break some crazy drag race, right? The factory one has worked really well.
Yeah. I noticed Suncoast has pushed into the 10-speed converter stuff a lot.
FTI took a long time to get into it, but when they
8-speed.
did, they came out with a billet, like a good convert. Like they didn't take a stock converter. Even early days on those, they were just taking the factory converters, reworking them, like not the other companies were, and then they spent the time to develop an actual aftermarket converter, then a rework.
I think a lot of people are having issues with the tuning with the aftermarket converters.
Yeah,
I know-
I like them. If I head cam like a NA car, like converters, like the first thing to put in there. It's going to go faster with a converter almost than what it would
Right.
with a
Love
cam.
com-
I'm saying like
Converter
the
setups.
algorithm for the converter, the lockup and stuff like that on the 10-speed is really, really good. But once you go to a converter, they were having a lot of issues.
Yeah.
I don't know if they still do, but I know that's what kind of Circle D was kind of back and forth on for a while. Like when we just did the 10-speed in Wendy's car, they're like totally against it. And I was like, remember like 5 years ago when you were against the 6-speed and now you're not. I was like, I think the 10-speed is going to be the same thing. But
Yeah, you gotta-
Suncoast looks like they hit it head on. They've got a bolt together whole billet unit.
You
That's
can't
nice.
like turn down like a moving industry, right? Like if they're coming around and they're working, then you got to kind of like, I can't be like, oh, I have to put a turbo 400 in. Like if it's working, then it's working. Then we go that route with something. And I think the Mustangs had it earlier on with all the cooler stuff that we
Yeah.
didn't at the time. Like to have a trans brake on a ZL1, it just wasn't a thing. But the Mustang guys had it.
Well, this is one of the few times that GM got the better trans.
Yeah.
You know, we have the better F clutch. The ZL1 has the bigger F clutch, which the Mustang doesn't have. The valve body and the control algorithm on the Fords is kind of iffy. That's why they'll shift and then they won't. But the ZL1s, you've dealt with the 10-speed enough. I mean, you tell it what to do, and as long as your stuff makes sense and your torque model's right, it's going to do what it needs to do. And you don't
That was
really
the
see a lot of
stories.
issues.
HP Tuners had like a Ford Insider back when they started, you know, like we're limited to what HP Tuners allows us to mess with. So
Yeah.
they just got into bed earlier with Ford, somebody at Ford to help them get all the stuff. As you know, that's I'm sure where a lot of the stuff comes from is
Well,
having a
you notice
direct
all the
connection.
tables.
Who?
All the tables that came out for the 10-speed stuff maybe 6 months or a year ago, how we didn't have a lot of 10-speed
Yeah, it was
control,
like- yeah.
and then they did the update.
Yeah.
You notice what it looks like? It's Ford stuff.
Oh yeah, but I don't spend enough time in Ford to know the.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't either. I just seen it.
I open up a file when Ford has like 26 different timing tables. I'm like, yeah, I'm out. I'm done.
I open up a file. I open up a file on a Ford, and I'm like, Rob, can you fix this for me? Thanks, bud.
Yeah,
Done.
It's not my. It's I like Mustangs. It just wasn't what drove our business. So we kind of followed what we did good with.
Yeah.
What's the future for accelerated?
Man, it's just us. So there's got to be something that like I'm getting older, so I can't continue to do this by myself. So that's one thing that's that's questionable on what, that we've, not that there aren't great shops out there with great employees, but there are, like, what I've seen is like, no one really treats it like your own, so that's always feared me in these caliber of cars, like having employees, and that's just me not wanting to let go of the control. I had really good employees in California, guys that, did really well, but I kind of just went with this business model because all I was doing is producing more cars. So I don't need to produce as many cars. I'd rather try to stick it to the quality. And if someone called, I know exactly what that car is. Like anything I've touched in Texas, and I've never had an employee here while I've been in Texas. It's strictly come from me. So as far as a business, I mean, we love what we do. We keep on going into that, racing, having fun with people, meeting people. But
Well, our customers grow with us. So
Yeah.
here I am building a 2,500 horsepower car. Now they're wanting to do the same thing in 6th Gen ZL1s, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's twin turbo, another
Big
F3
Pro Charger,
Pro
yeah.
So we're only getting faster, not only personally, but our customers are getting faster as well.
Nice.
yeah, like I don't know, like just keep doing what we're doing. Like keep trying to get faster, right? Like this is Black ZL1. He wants to push it pretty hard, so we'll keep going for that. But just doing what we truly do what we love. We go to the track, we enjoy it. There's nights that I'm at the track 3-4 nights a week sometimes if we're getting ready for a race till 1-2 in the morning, and then turn around and come here and do it again. So, keep the business just between us, and maybe someday get some help down the road. I'd love, like you said, it doesn't exist today like it did back then where someone would want to just come sweep floors, right, and learn from the ground.
Right.
Like I would teach somebody things, but either people come work for you and then go do their own thing, and then,
Like they don't really value the knowledge that you can gain because
Yeah, I mean,
they think
this
they can
took-
find it on Google.
I paid for, learning all this stuff, how much money I have into that, and how much time you have into stuff, and,
Yep.
just keep on pushing forward with the platform and keep learning new things. And,
We got into C8, so we're doing C8s too, and that's evolving daily.
We took a jump into Motec. That was big. Like, that would have intimidated me, let's say like 5 years ago. Like, that was like not even in my mindset. Now that I'm doing like that kind of ECU, I'm like, whoa, this stuff could do everything you wanted to do. So more aftermarket ECU stuff. Like if this industry gets regulated more by whatever governing bodies that may not allow us to do, things that the aftermarket ECU and the racing thing is going to take off. So whether it be spend time on seeing if we could put fuel tech on these things or another ECU. So continuing to learn product, and that's where we went into Motec really heavily. I'd say in the last year, it's pushing ourselves to learn something that, we've never done before. Now I have a bunch of cars out there on it, and it performs really well for what we do.
But that doesn't take away the fact that you still like to do the HP tuner stuff too.
Yeah, I enjoy it.
But-
But like a Motec, like HP tuners, at the end of the day, it's evolving, but you're still having to finagle things to make it do what you want it to do.
Right.
Where a standalone is going to say, hey, do this job, and it's going to execute that job. HP tuners may get in the middle of you, but that's kind of like now the balance of getting those two to work together. Then, it's fun.
Yeah.
It's cool. I enjoy it. Some days I don't want to be in front of a laptop. I don't want to tune, and I want to work on a car. I come out here to do it. All right, now we got some tuning appointments, and I think that's where I could jump between the two of them. So I could do a little bit of both. Like sometimes you don't want to be in front of a laptop for 8 hours. Like I don't. And then I want to come tear something apart, and then I'll go back to that. Sometimes you got to walk away from a car. That's fighting you.
Which is hard to do too.
Yes.
Then you go to bed and then you wake up and you're like out
Thinking
here
about
in your
it, yes.
underwear trying to fix the
Yes.
car.
He goes, hey, I
Yes.
know what to do now.
You laugh,
Yes.
but that happens.
Yes.
No.
More
I
times
guarantee you that
more
happens.
times than we like to admit.
Yeah.
It happens weekly.
But man, in this racing, and I stand behind it, is that the memories you build in doing this stuff, like half the fun for me of going to a track and providing track support, like Tex 2K, like just is the late nights with everybody, whether it be helping somebody pull out a transmission. Alex's car. We were at Jake's race, and Steve was doing it. They're rebuilding a Turbo 400 for like the California guys, like in the pits, so they can make it back the next day. Like I don't know, the people in this industry. There's some really good ones that I want to devote time into helping them.
There's a few sour ones, but
There is, but
There's
that's
a few
going to come in
But
any.
I think a lot more people work together, especially since the LT came out and people started struggling.
Yeah.
So now they're like, oh, well, maybe we should work together.
Yeah, I can't, like, I have no problems with, people may have a problem with me, but I don't, like, there's many tuners I talk to across the country that, we're very respectable both directions for. And
there's actually
a
couple shops that I tune for that they know him as well. And he'd be like, oh, well, I had Brandon help me on this. And I'm like, oh, well, what does he think? And we had a Pro EFI issue with one of their cars. And I'm like, look, call Brandon. Well, I don't know, I don't know if he'll answer it. I'm like, Brandon will be there. He'll help you.
Yeah. At least I could try to help. And actually get it done.
But that's something I think that was real valuable. We talked about the V Club.
Yeah.
On the last podcast with Matt, because I thought the V Club was kind of a really cool thing.
Yeah.
But that's where we met them, was at where they were unveiling the Escalade V.
Oh, dope.
Me and Wendy were there, and we ran into them and hit it off from there, and went to the shop, hung out multiple times since then. But from the first jump, it was me and him nerding out, and they were probably like, I don't know what the hell's going on here.
Staring at the new V Escalade.
Yeah.
But you could tell instantly that, he doesn't do this because, he has to do it. He doesn't do it to pay the bills. He does it because he genuinely loves it. Same reason I do it.
Yep.
We love watching people enjoy their investment. And I think that's something I really like about the way that they do what they do.
Business.
Is they value it. Nobody would spend that much time at the track if they didn't love it.
In BMW days, I remember I was young, punk kid making a bunch of money, and the lady was doing coaching, and she was like, don't do it for the money. I'm like, yeah, right. Like, what's this lady saying? Like, I'm here for free? Like, but I really valued that now is like, I don't do it for the money. Yes, it pays for what we get to do, but the money comes with treating people right. Like, just do the right thing, help people, be available. Like, the rest comes with it. And like, when we first opened our business, we're like, how the hell does any small business make any money whatsoever? Like, I remember, like, why do we do like, it just was like, couldn't even pay the rent that we were at. It was tough when you get started, but
Performance shops in general don't make nearly the amount of money that people think they make.
When the economy swings, it does it for us, but it's,
because most people, what people don't realize is you don't have to have a race car to go to work.
Yeah.
Well, some people do, but you don't have to have a race car to go to work
when they do it. But
so it kind of, the regular mechanic shops are always going to be a little more profitable, but because the larger sums of money come through these, people think that, they're making all kinds. No, they're not. Like they're paying their bills and they might be making some benefit, but the margins are just too small, especially with all the people that have their own online sales business. When they used to do map pricing, map pricing was great because everybody was on the level playing field, and now you've got all these people that are selling stuff out of their garage. No offense to how Thule started, but at least
Amazon.
he did it with his own product and stuff.
Yeah.
But a lot of people, they're trying to sling parts, and they're like, well, if I make $20 because they don't have overhead, and they've kind of killed a lot of the profit for the shops.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I don't know how you guys handle that as far as people bringing their own parts or
It's
stuff
hard.
like that. But
I mean, I don't want to turn down a job, like that's where I can make money is selling parts from what I'm a dealer for. So it kind of hurts my feelings when I'm like, what do you mean you bought it from some random website? Like, you want me to install it and tune it, but you paid some website that you have no connection with. Like, I want to make the $20.
I want to pay for my Starbucks.
A lot of people don't see that.
Please.
They think, they should buy the parts because they're going to save a little money, but they don't realize
costing
that.
them more.
But some people want to, and I can't, it's hard to knock on that because people, might spend, and it's realistic. People might spend a couple years putting all their parts together only because they don't have the $20,000 to do it, but they're going to buy it. So it's like.
So I can't turn down someone bringing their own parts.
Built our own stuff and went to tuners and, so I've been there, so I see it. So it's hard to there's times for that and times not for that. Like someone brings me a set of pistons and I'm not going to go that far, but if you bring me an unwrapped flex fuel sensor from the same person, I'm going to buy it. Then there's not often does, it happen, but we sometimes have to let it happen.
Yeah. It seems like the more of your clientele is kind of, here, I have this car.
Do it.
I'd like to hit this goal.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that was another thing that I thought was really cool is that y'all will, the time that she'll put in and, you'll put in together and build this whole package for somebody. And then then you're going to the track and you're proving it.
Yeah. So I don't have a website with package stage 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't have that. Okay. I have, what is your goal? What is your budget? What do you want to do with a car? Because if somebody just wants to race it and be consistent, I don't even have to add power. I could do suspension or a wheel tire package, right? Or I could start off, my budget's $1,500. Okay, we'll start here, and then if people have a plan, I could build that out. So I am totally against having set packages because I like building it per that customer, and I will take that time to build a package specific for that person.
And it's not like when you go buy a car, right? They're like, what do you want your payment to be? Like, it's a valid question for me to say, what's your budget? Because if you don't understand what it takes to get a ZL1 to 1,000 horsepower, like,
what they're telling me is a $25,000 build and they only got $3,000. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, I'm trying to, like, are we in the same ballpark on can I make that goal happen for that? So sometimes they think like that question's coming from the wrong intentions, and it's not. Like, are we?
I'm being honest.
Because they like heads cam in a LS back in the day was like
affordable,
compared to what it is now.
Now it's like, ridiculous.
Now just a cam is $5,000.
Yeah, it's
exactly.
ridiculous.
Yeah, because you got to pull the motor.
Yep.
You can, somebody down the valley is going to slide the cam out and hit the radiator
There's
with a
no-
hole in
yeah,
it.
This
but-
guy drops the oil pan.
I'll drop the oil pan out. I'll pull the radiator, but there's no gone are the cam only days. Like, it doesn't exist. Like, you can't do it on a ZL1.
Have you
cannot.
Have you
cam
done
only.
a cam and a V3 with the motor in the car?
We've always
And then
done
felt
motor in the
stupid
cars.
about how many coolers you had to pull out and all the
It's-
time you spent?
It's
Never pulled motors out of cars
It's
for
been a
cam.
while. I haven't cammed a V3 in a little bit, but yeah, I mean, like,
The V3 is the only one that, like,
Yeah,
by
the
the time I
Camaros-
took all the coolers
Yeah,
and
you're
all
like,
the
I'm
stuff
just gonna
out, I
pull
was
it.
like, dude, I could have pulled the motor and put it back in by the
Yeah.
time I just got to this.
they are easier. But I mean, the way I pull the oil pan on every one to make sure I get the cam timing right. But
And we seal that little oil leak too.
yeah, damn oil pans leak like crazy. But that's another.
Not Turbo 400 bad, but the horsepower's
I had
bad.
to go with that.
He's still on it.
I'm just saying, it's crazy. It doesn't make any sense. You can silicone that thing on. Use whatever glue you want. They always leak.
Race car parts don't leak.
It's horsepower sweat. I get it.
Are you offended by a leak? Goodness.
I'm weird about that. My car's spotless underneath because if something happens, I want to be able to see it.
I was pissed when that one leaked. When you spend that kind of money on a Turbo 400 and you're like, are you kidding me? Like,
I went to a private rental at H&P. They do like a Thursday night thing, right? And I go make a pass, and it's like 69 Camaro, not like a really nice one, like one that, got some age on it.
Yeah.
He makes a pass, a couple cars make a pass, and they come around, they're like, hey, you can't run anymore. You leak fluid on the track. And I'm
Wasn't
like,
me.
very unlikely.
so we're going to bet.
And I'm like, and they're like, yeah, well, they said it was your car. And I'm like, I don't know if you've looked under that, but like it's spotless. I wash it I wash that more than I wash the outside of the car. and I go back up there, and then that Camaro makes another pass and just pisses fluid all the way down. And I was like, so yeah, a leak would drive me
Seen
insane.
that before.
This is the extreme race car stuff. Like that, yes, your 1,000 horsepower ZL1 is not going to leak oil anywhere, but your
Well, the rear main's gonna leak.
if you push enough boost through it. But the race car stuff, like they break, you fix them at the track, they leak, they.
Back to the budget thing, a lot of people don't realize. So again, my build, I guess, would be more of a common build that you would do, right? Like, say you had a Chevy SS or Camaro SS. Let me make sure I get this right. And you did rods, pistons, 2650 port injection. That build would be 50 to 70,000. People are like, oh, what is that? About 35? And I'm like, when I first did it, I priced it all out, and I even made a post about it. I did 58 is what I have in that car when I did the build.
Yeah.
And people are like, oh, well, so the shop should be. I'm like, no. That was no labor.
Yeah.
That is what I put in dollar amount buying the stuff. You take that to a shop, that's 70 grand, and people are like, that's insane. I'm like, bro, I remember even in the C6 days, they were paying in 30K increments. Like, this stuff costs a lot more than people think it does.
F1X C6, you'd be $250,000 into a C6 back then.
They
when
don't
you're
realize.
doing like,
That's the thing, is they don't realize. A lot of people don't realize that. Again, it's not the performance shop really making the money. It's just
Parts.
that's what these parts really cost. And nowadays, parts are 2 or 3 times what it costs. But I remember putting $100 grand in a C6 was not abnormal.
no.
Cam parts went up from like November to February. It jumped like $1,000, like just for cam parts on like a C6 or not. Sorry, a 6th gen. And I'm like, why did my cam price go up so much? Johnson lifter price went up, like the head price went up, everything went up.
Yeah, I get all the time.
$1,000 just in parts.
People are always like, "Oh, what's this cost?" And I guess instantly I think back to like when I was doing a lot of work. I really slowed the shop stuff down once the LT was coming out. So I didn't do a ton of LT, but even the pricing that I knew then, and people were like, "Oh, what was this?" And I'm like, "It's about this much." And they're like, "Man, I priced it out," and I'm like,
Oh, shit.
dude, that's almost double what it was a
It
few
is.
years ago.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is the amount of money that people are gonna have to put in these builds. They just don't get it.
Damn.
Or they always, and I hate it because it's like you want to have this awesome car, but you have to skimp in some ways, but they always skimp the wrong way.
Yes.
Fueling and tuning, two things you don't
the
skimp.
one thing you need. Fueling.
But I get people that are
Nah,
like,
my
well,
buddies does it without this.
so I got
Bro.
5 meth nozzles in it, and I'm like,
yeah.
Nah, I'm good.
so you have 10 psi coming
Yeah.
out
But
of
I
the meth
want it
pump?
reliable, and I don't want it to blow up.
Yeah.
They what?
They want it reliable, and they don't want it to blow up.
Right. But they got 5 meth nozzles
Yeah.
in the intake, and that was something I had noticed in the C7, the tanks where they put the meth in the washer tank. Have you ever noticed the delay there?
What, to pump it through everything? Or
Do you
to-
know what temperature methanol boils at?
Oh, I believe it. They started wrapping the tanks because it was close to the headers.
Still,
Yeah.
you know what methanol boils at?
What?
140.
Yeah, it's not very hard to get it to 140.
So I was talking to Julio from Alki,
Yeah.
and I'm like, man, every time I make a pull in this car, the first pull, there's a delay. And he's like, yeah, the meth's boiling. I'm like, boiling, what? And so I had a car sitting outside, hadn't run all day, and I had a thermal camera. And I go to the fender, and the fender's 160, just sitting in the sun.
yeah,
And that's just basic concrete.
And I'm like-
concrete temp.
Man,
without header heat. Yeah.
right, without, and the C7's designed to
Yeah.
flow out of that fender.
Yep.
So that's something a lot of people, when you try to tell them and you're like, look, you don't want to do the side tank. You really need to put it in the back. Well, I don't want it in my car. I'm like, okay, then maybe you should find a different route of doing this. But
the port injection is so reasonable these days. It just simplifies things.
Yeah.
that's some of the things that I just see people do, and they try to skimp because they're like, well, I don't want to buy that $200 more tank. But these little skimps that they're doing are going to, thank God the motors are so resilient. But
It's hard to kill LT4.
yeah, I've only had one actually fail, and
Yeah.
when it failed, boy, it was like a grenade.
Rod coffin.
Like when that rod broke, I guess because they're they're really hard. I mean, it took. I'm surprised the crank didn't come out the motor.
Damn.
There wasn't much aluminum left. I was like, man, good thing these things don't blow up a lot. But I mean, that's the only thing I don't know if y'all still struggle with, or like I said, your customers they come here because they know what they're going to get. So maybe you don't have that issue as much.
I try to make things as transparent as possible. And that's what another thing people either don't like about us or like about us. I'm going to give you our full honesty on literally everything.
Yeah, I
I'm
might
not
lose-
going to sugarcoat it. I'm not going to make things all like with a nice, pretty bow. I'm going to let you know how it is. And that's about it.
Yeah.
Nice.
And
You
then
want
the
more?
scheduling.
Huh?
The scheduling, I really like that. Which
How
I
to
think
keep
how
it
one
scheduled.
car could screw our whole schedule up, though. Like if something doesn't go as planned, it's one like.
which
it's not
totally
like
different for me because I am not a scheduler.
Oh yeah, no, I have.
Because I'm
to-
like, they're
He's
like, what
not
are
a
you doing next
scheduler.
week? I'm
I'm a
like, I don't
scheduler.
even know what state I'll be
this
in
one
next
needs
week.
a run tomorrow. Hopefully, we'll see.
Damn.
But they'll schedule something, 2-3 months out, no problem.
Yes.
And then when their turn's up, the car comes in, the car
Yeah.
gets done, the car leaves. I'm like,
I don't think I've
that's
ever-
so weird because shops just don't really
It's
do
probably
that.
something we care most about. We try to like some things are unforeseen. You get parts delays or the new part comes, it's got a problem. Like so, it's hard, it's to meet expectations sometimes. Whether expectation be reasonable or not, it's hard. It's tough, but we're here.
Yeah. I just noticed that was something a little different that you guys really stick to, and I don't know how you do
I think
it.
we got
but-
experience. I don't know. I just know how long something's going to take, and then I have him review it, and he's like, "Hell no, I can't do that." And I'm like, "We'll
Like,
make
you
it
have
happen."
2 days on the calendar for this. No.
No, I'm like, "But please." And then I gotta get realistic because this man can't work 24/7, and I don't want him to hate me. So
Extra 2 days.
yeah. Okay. I'll give you an
We're
extra 2
trying to
days.
stay married.
Yeah. So I gotta think about that too. I'm like, okay, I was being a little greedy. I'm sorry. Maybe you could have one day off.
Jeez. So before we wrap this up, because I'm going to ask every shop this.
What's up?
I already preempted it with her, but when the electric cars become a little niche thing, what is your thoughts on that?
BMW, right? Like I worked on
Any electric car?
No, but I worked at BMW.
Okay.
And guess what happened when the electric cars came out? That's where I made all my money is in the electric cars. So it's like I saw the trend and I followed it. So you can't turn it down. Like
Well, I'm
you
talking
just,
because I don't believe that electric's the future regardless.
yeah.
I think
Well,
hybrids
they're gonna be there.
Hybrids are the future because it makes sense. And I think more of a diesel hybrid makes a lot more sense. I'm not sure why that's
I
not
like that electric cars have no soul. Like I don't know, something about a Plaid going like, get a Plaid and go 570. I'm like, but it like I don't know, it's just not my choice. Like it loses the whole essence of what a race car is.
for now.
But it's so simple to do. Like
But so what I'm getting at is because I don't think it's not there yet, but I think the enthusiast market's going to be a thing once they're tunable.
yeah.
And if you ever mess with RC cars, and I hate to say it in this because it's like an absolute. So in RC cars, remember the nitro cars?
Yeah.
And then the electric come out
took off
and
faster.
nitro's junk.
Yeah.
I don't think I look at the real cars as that, but I do look at it on the aspect of the tunability you have on the electric car. I don't think we'd go to like an electric drag race
I
and
don't
people would
think
be
it's
like, oh,
gonna-
that's cool. But I think in the enthusiast level, there's going to be, once they're tunable, I think it's going to be kind of a market. Is that something you would even mess with?
But in our time frame, right?
I think it's coming
40
sooner
years
than
old,
you know.
right? So like you put another 10 years on it. Like is it
AEM
gonna
has a
make it?
controller already.
Teach me.
I don't know. You look at what Fuel Tech did. Fuel Tech came out with their FT700 and it is EV, or they were already doing it on the FT600. But there is an EV.
I don't know, so explain that one.
It's on there. I don't know enough about it, but it's on. It even when you open up Fuel Tech right now, it has an EV on the. Like it shows that they have it. So the Fuel Tech's already thought about that. So they've already got into that. So Fuel Tech, I don't know if they're the pioneer in it or if other things have done it. You know, I would think a Motec would be able to do whatever the hell you want.
I heard Holly was going to do it, but then I
Yeah.
never heard much more back about it. But I
But
thought they had a
imagine you
Holly
could-
that controlled the Tesla motors.
Yeah, and imagine you could go drop that into your swap car. Like, yeah, I think there's a market for it. I think it'll be around. I don't think it's going anywhere. I don't think it's going to be, the whole world's not going to be able to run on them, but
No, because
They-
it's
they
not.
might-
It's not
yeah.
really practical for
no.
like.
But it's there. You have to treat it seriously. Like
Do you-
that
do you
E-Ray. I don't know
think-
anything about C8 E-Ray, but that's one that's hybrid, right? Like, that's people-
Kind of.
So I don't know enough
not
about
a
it,
pl-
but it's there.
It's not a plug-in, but
Yeah.
it's recharged by
Driving.
I guess
Yeah.
by driving it.
I mean, if you ever drive, like, I talked a lot of bad about like a Tesla Plaid until I got in one, and I was like, oh man, this thing's pretty serious. Like,
It's a strange feeling.
it'll make you sick. It pulls
Yeah.
so hard. Like,
Well, even
it's-
the Model 3, like
Yeah.
we just bought the little rear-wheel drive one,
Yeah.
and the first day or two, we had to go park it. We were a little
nauseous.
sick.
Yeah, it's just this weird.
It's the you're rolling in a throttle a little and that instant acceleration. You're like,
Right. I commuted in California. I had an electric car. That's all
and
I
then
drove was
we're
electric
going through
cars.
hills, so it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, it took probably 2-3 days before we got used to it.
Yeah,
but
it's something I'll take as it comes and see. I think there's a place for it. I just don't like.
I'm just
in
curious
my
how a
time
lot of
frame,
shops think about it. Like
yeah.
some guys are like, absolutely not. I'm not doing that. That's junk. And I'm like, you gotta be a little more open minded.
Yeah, we had to.
I mean, I'm not like pro EV because
Yeah.
I mean-
they're regardless of they're terrible for the planet. They're horrible for the grid.
Yeah.
But they're kind of cool.
in my grudge cars, they go like, "Yeah, I beat a Tesla Plaid." I'm like, "You idiot!" Like,
Now we know
everybody
exactly
knows
what you
your car
run.
runs. That is a very Google car. Like, you guys. And I remember like one of my
It's like,
customers
one
called
for
me.
roll,
He's
so
like,
we know you run 450s.
"Yeah, like we grudge race a Plaid." I'm like, "You did what?" Like, of all the cars you could have picked, there is no variation. Like,
Yeah.
it runs this.
But I think once they're tunable is where it's going to make them more fun.
Yeah.
That's where I think it's going to make it kind of a, because you do battery cables and motor timing and
Yeah.
there's a lot of nerdy shit in there.
You seem to be tickled by it.
I'm
So
interested.
he's pro EV. You don't
might
even
be
say
sweet.
I'm
It's
pro
pro
anything
It
that can
does
go fast
not
and has
tickle my
multiple
fancy.
controls.
There's nothing like a cammed. Like I don't think that'll ever get old for me. Even when I build so many of these cars, and just the first fire up on all of them is just like that's
Yeah,
intoxicating.
I would
Like,
never
just the
have an
sound.
electric car and not have a gas car, ever. Never. It won't
The
happen.
electric car has its purpose, and the gas, like it just.
Yeah.
I just think it's kind of a cool little thing. You can take
thinks,
that
would you
little
get in
motor
it
and shove it
and
in
tune it?
something, make it
You
all-wheel
could.
drive easily.
I think about it.
I think
That's about it.
That's where he's at on it.
So in 3 years, we're going to be racing
Yeah.
Teslas.
He said 3
Never
years.
say never.
Jeez.
right? Tesla versus Lucid.
You never know, man. 10 years from now, she might have Tesla motors in that.
Nah. I'm old
Buy
school,
it off me
man.
right now, bro.
I'm old school.
Dude, if I had the money, I would absolutely. When she first posted it, I'm like, God.
I'm still in the LS game. I don't even got LT.
Yeah.
I'm an LS
We're
girl.
old school, bro. Dusty.
Yeah, but all those race cars, they pull the direct injection anyway.
know.
So I'm like,
I know.
silly. Not a big fan of that. Pulling the direct injection. It just seems like you should just put an LS in it.
Yeah, you
why,
could.
why would you do that?
Yeah.
I like the balance of them right now. We'll use the DI to where it will
Yeah.
go, and then bring the rest in.
Because once you pull it, you lose a lot of that spunk that the LT had, the efficiency too.
I mean, we have multiple builds going right now. We're keeping the DI on.
Yeah,
it. We're not taking
keeping
it out.
like some people you delete the fuel bowls and stuff, but you want
But
to
at
try
that point,
to
just put an LS in it.
yeah,
Yeah.
you could. Yeah,
I think that'd be cheaper.
yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
You ready to wrap it up?
Yeah, let's wrap it up.
Let's go.
Turbo 400's life. Mic drop.
Discord.
Out. Dropped it.
That's how I was gonna leave it. Boom. Let's go.
First straight race car, that's it. Yeah.
Very sour.
It's not
Right.
sour, it's just, give us some time with the 10 speed.
Let's not go back to that one.
Give us time with
I
the
already
10 speed.
killed you in that conversation.
Give us time with the 10 speed. I'm sure you were a 6L hater at one point.
Nah, I liked it.
Everybody hated that thing, even me, for a while.
We just went straight into the 8 speeds.
I think Ford dodged a nice bullet by skipping that.
Yeah. Yeah. We were
They're like,
straight
yeah,
in the 8
we're not gonna
speeds.
do that.
Right? He's never gonna go over this.
I'm gonna text him Turbo
gonna
400's
call me.
life like all the time randomly.
He's gonna call me.
He's gonna get in a mood in the middle of another podcast, and I'm just
Like,
gonna
Wendy,
Right.
can you text Brandon? Because I blocked his number.
oh shit.
Guys, thank you for watching Go Hard Podcast. Make sure you check out Instagram for the shorts, Facebook, TikTok, and yeah, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank
think
you for
we're-
having us.
How many hours? How many hours? 3 hours and 30 minutes.
Almost.
good.
I said it was going to be about 4 hours.
Yeah. I think I'm trying to break the record.
I
No,
forgot
I
like
just-
half of it already. but
He's like, I don't think I have enough interesting stuff to talk about. I said, you forget we've talked. This one's going to be a
I
long
just
You
one.
shot-
forgot you had this guy on.
There's so much good
Just
info.
Yeah.
threw up everything.
You've done so much in your 20 years.
Editing it all
Yeah.
into one cleaned
that
up
your job?
package.
Editing?
No
Oh, no,
editing,
no,
just
I
run
have
it,
an editor.
run it
Oh,
through.
okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
No editing,
Good
run it
luck
through.
to him.
Yeah. But yeah, so
Jeez, we're not done yet, bro.
Wow,
Wow,
I was
Brandon.
gonna mic drop it right now, bro.
comment down below who you guys want on the
10
next
speed.
podcast. Yeah. Thank you guys so much. Thank you for the food again. You
Yep,
know,
no
It
worries.
was awesome. And yeah, Turbo 400 for life. Peace.